France. All right, now let's talk about stage 13. And to do that, this could be very challenging, but somehow Paul Sherwen is going to bring us the explanation of what lies ahead with a British accent.
Oh, thank you, Al. That's frightfully nice of you to allow me to introduce the map today, which we brought to us by Mitchum. So let's have a look at where the riders will go here this afternoon. We're right at the very southern part of France, in the area not too far away from the Camargue. The riders will leave Miramas very early on in the afternoon at around about 1:30 and make their way across this very flat land right in the southern part of the hexagon of France on the way down to the finish line in Montpellier. It's a fairly long ride, but as you can see, there's only a little pimple right at the start, and I don't think that will upset anybody at all. But what I'd like to do is have a quick look at the map, the facts brought to us by AMD. The stage distance, 173.5 kilometers, 108 miles, and that's approximately the same distance as Monterey, California to San Francisco. And of course, you do realize, and you do remember, of course, that the last time we came here was, I think, back in 1994, and the winner on that occasion was a Danish rider by the name of Rolf Sorensen.
Wow, that actually did sound British. Amazing.
Frightfully well
I think
done.
I want to take a nap.
Now, what's the hexagon of France? What was that?
Well, the French actually call it the hexagon because if you look at it, it actually
hexagon.
looks a hex.
It's got four sides.
Six sides, actually.
Okay, got it.
Hex.
It's time now for our
Quadricon?
Saab performance predictions. Let's check out the scoreboard because lately things have not been easy to predict. It's the battle for the OLN yellow jersey. Did anybody get anything yesterday?
No, but I had a man in the break.
Doesn't count. But Sherwen is still in the OLN yellow jersey. Phil Liggett is next. I've been stagnant, and Bob Roll remains with only 1 point.
Consistent.
I'm going to go in number 1 position and take Thor Hushoff. Not only has he shown strength in the sprints, but he has shown that he's willing to go on the breaks. That could be a good recipe today. I didn't cheat. It was my turn.
Okay. I don't think there's going to be a field sprint today. I think there's going to be a breakaway. Not a lot of power left in the peloton. Juan Antonio Fletcher, probably the preeminent long-distance breakaway man in the peloton today.
Phil.
Well, he's never let me down in the past. Robbie McEwen is the fastest sprinter left in the race. If they come home together, he's got to win, and I'll be back on top.
Paul.
You guys are taking all the good names, but I'm going to take, as I did yesterday, Stewie O'Grady, because O'Grady can win in the sprint and he can win from a breakaway situation. But it doesn't really matter for me because I'm still leading by 5 points.
Very lucky.
Phil accusing luck, cheating, I don't know. Meanwhile, Bob Roll only has 1 point. And that may lead some to believe that he has no shot at the yellow jersey that bears the OLN symbol. That very well may be true. However, he does have some history with a yellow jersey. Here, take a look.
Oh, I don't believe it. Bob Roll, he's been sandwiched.
He is out and eaten.
Whatever it takes to get the yellow jersey, I will do it.
We didn't see that in rehearsal.
Even if it means going into the sandwich, it'll do it.
Wait a minute, I have... Oh, here it is. Wear it with pride.
Temporarily.
La Maglia.
Mayonnaise on a roll.
Never see the real one.
Our thanks to Bruno Collet, who somehow had the free time to do that animation. Good stuff. We'll get set for racing. Stage 13 when we come back on OLN. The flat stuff before the Pyrenees begin tomorrow. We're at the finish line in Montpellier.
Today, the climbers take a break as the sprinters will cross swords once again. It's a new dawn in the battle for the green jersey. Now it's Norway's Thor Hushoff who's best of the bunch. But Robbie McEwen has won it before, and lately when it comes to the sprints, he's looked like a man amongst the boys. Who will show the real muscle? Make sure you keep your feet on the pedals and your eyes on the road. The ever-dangerous fast roads return as the 2005 Tour de France continues next on OLN. Yes, and the pedalling heroes of the Tour de France today head into the Rockies and the cauldron of the far south of France The wind is getting up. We could be in for a very hot and quite a windy race as they head from Miramas down to Montpellier today. A day of glory yesterday, though, for the French, not just because it was their first stage win, but because it was July the 14th and Bastille Day. Back to our little house for the next few hours. There we are, tucked up nicely. We've got an air conditioner today. I wonder why, Paul. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our coverage of the Tour de France. Phil Liggett with Paul Sherwen. Well, Lance Armstrong, it was a peaceful day enough for him as race leader yesterday, but he was concerned, of course, because by the end of the day, he'd lost Manuel Beltran, who'd fallen, touched the wheel and gone down, overnight in hospital. He's okay, of course, but out of the race. That's one man down as we head towards the Pyrenees. But, Paul, let's bring our attention to today. It's the sprinters. Tom Bonan not with us.
Well, in fact, the sprinters competition is going to be very close as three guys now think they can take the green jersey all the way up to Paris. Very sad, really, to see Tom Bonan pull out of the race yesterday. He did try, but he had a very bad knee, and this was a crash that he had actually a couple of days previously in the mountains. But Thor Hushovd is currently the leader in that competition.
And here we have the top five here. Thor Hushovd is the leader with 142 points. Stuart O'Grady second. McEwen is third. They're the big three in this competition now. Vinokurov down there with 81 and Eisel completing the top five. Now today, because it's a sprint stage and this competition is basically for the sprinters, the winner today gets 35 points, the most you can get on any stage, right down to 1 for 25th place. Two sprints along the way, each carrying 6, 4 and 2 points. Right, let's have a look then at how life was at the beginning today. There's the man who would like to win today, Robbie McEwen, talking to the cameras at the back. Rollout time, Lance Armstrong talking with his man farthest off camera there, George Hincapie, as they made their way out. But after 22 kilometres today, there was a breakaway. We don't want to say too much about Bob Roll, but in the breakaway, in fact, he's Juan Antonio Fletcher, but it was Thomas Vogler, the man who led for 10 days last year, who got it. Onto the climb, Chris Horner, the US man born in Japan, who takes the line here. 3 points. There's a break of 5 riders clear. They've had a big lead of 9 minutes, but the lead is beginning to come down.
Well, it's all because I think of the work that's being done on the front by the teammates of Robbie McEwen. Robbie McEwen's team, Lotto Davitamon, have come forward, and once the group got to a 9-minute advantage, I think alarm bells then began to ring. There's Chris Horner, who lies, he's actually the best placed rider in the overall classification here in the group at 15 minutes and 22 seconds. And of course the French will be very happy after their win yesterday to see that Thomas Vogler has made it into this lead group of 5 men.
All right, so the latest gap to the yellow jersey of Armstrong is 7 minutes and 5 seconds. A little, we think we can know crash injuries there on the arm of Ludovic Turpin. Number of riders at the start of this race, 182. Now we have 162 of the 189, I beg your pardon, 162 left, and there's only 6 of the 21 teams now who don't have the full complement of 9 men. And very, very rarely, we have to say this, but Lance Armstrong's team is one of them.
Yeah, not since 2001 when Christian van der Velde abandoned after a very nasty crash in the team time trial. But if you look at the main field there, you can see that there is a very big, long line. And the reason for that is because they are certainly whipping up the pace at the front end of the main field. It's quite normal, really, because the problem for the sprinters is they don't have very many more occasions to win stages before we get up to the Champs-Élysées in Paris. They certainly won't be winning tomorrow's 2 stages, the weekend's 2 stages, I should say, because on Saturday and Sunday we'll be in the Pyrenees.
All right, well, 7:05 is the gap, so they are coming down. We let them run for a while, but it looks as though the team is after them now, and it looks like a day for the sprinters. Beautiful blue waters here. We're racing through one of the hottest parts of France today, and when this leading group of 5 riders, which went after 17 kilometres, got a lead of over 9 minutes, we thought they might have been out for the day. But I guess the field thought differently. The chase is on, and it's coming down, Paul, alarmingly quickly. 6:49 now.
Very quickly. It went at 51 kilometres to the 9-minute mark, and Robbie McEwen, I think, as he did yesterday, has said to the teammates, come to the front, whip up the pace-making, because today it's the last day I can probably win until the Champs-Élysées, and that's why they're hauling along here at around about 50 kilometres an hour.
Well, our pictures, as always, are stunningly beautiful in this part of France. We're leaving the mountains behind us, but they're back again tomorrow, of course. We're into the Pyrenees, and 3 very tough days. There's 1 rest day on Monday, but the next 3 days are going to be very, very hard for everybody on the Tour de France. There's the long peloton, a long, long line of riders now, so all of a sudden this race very much alive today. Looks as though we've got trouble at the back here, because that was Fabian Weckman. Remember him on day one of the road racing stages, challenging for an early lead in the King of the Mountains. And there's the front view of a long stretch line of riders. 6:51 the gap at the moment, but the chase already on in earnest. A long way to go. So as you see the riders now leave this town here, as they move on, we're now settling in for what is a couple of hours in the saddle on this very hot day in the south of France. See you in a moment. Welcome back, everybody, on the road to the Tour de France. That is the Pont du Gard, which is a Roman site, part of the World Heritage Site, in fact, since 1985. 1.25 million people a year visit that site down here in the south of France. And I'm pretty sure we'll see a lot more with the arrival of the Tour. 173 kilometres the ride today, always going to be hot, no threat of any rain. They'll scorch on this road. We race down past the Camargue where the flamingos rest, and they're a bird you only see in South Africa normally. And again, off to an incredibly fast start today, 51 kilometres an hour, that's 31.6 miles an hour. A breakaway getting clear at 17 kilometres. There's Chris Horner, he's in the break, first Tour de France, riding like a veteran, I have to say. And with him is Juan Antonio Fletcher at Voigtler, Thomas Voigtler, the leader from last year. He's got in a break. It's his first break since day 2 of this race. And then we have Carlos da Cruz of Française des Jeux and Ludovic Tepin of AG2R. We thought they were going to run out for quite a long lead today, but in fact they are being brought back at a steady pace. Anyway, as we look at the peloton here, let's catch up with Craig Hummer and Lance Armstrong at the start today.
Lance, first and foremost, have you spoken with Tricky, and how's he doing?
Johan talked to him last night, and physically now he's fine. He's more than anything, he's upset that he doesn't have any real physical consequences other than a little headache now, and yet he's out of the race, so he can't go on and help us, and he can't ride into Paris, win or lose. So Johan said he was very, very down.
After all the rain we had in the first week, couple days of sunshine, certainly the heat today, how do you prepare differently when you have a long, hot day in the saddle?
Hydrate. You just have to hydrate, and hydration starts the night before, the morning of, during the race, of course, immediately after the race. And hydration is something that, once you get behind on it, you're hosed, and so, or you wish you were hosed, I should say. But you just gotta be smart, and Johan's good about it in the race, constantly reminding him. It's funny, you've got 30-year-old guys riding around in the biggest bike race in the world, and you got a director that constantly reminds you to drink water, so it works perfect.
You, on paper at least, have a day, this is a day for the sprinters or a classic breakaway. Is today for you more about safety, or is it just about recovery?
You could say it could be about recovery, but also we know this part of France is typically very windy, and they're going to be attacking for sure in the beginning because they know that we like to let breaks go, and so you're going to have 40, 50 guys that think they're going to be in that lucky move. So in the beginning we can expect a fast start. And, for us, we prefer that a break goes because the finish is tricky, and it's much better to come in sprinting, racing for 10th versus racing for first. I mean, they race totally differently. So,
enjoy the day. We'll
thanks.
See you.
And thank you, Craig Hummer there with Lance. Well, he's let the break go, and it's been a very fast start so far. He's absolutely right. Well, let's hope he keeps drinking too, especially for tomorrow, because tomorrow OLN's exclusive coverage of the 2005 Tour de France will continue with stage number 14, and boy, is it a biggie. We will come live tomorrow morning at 8:30 Eastern Time with expanded primetime coverage at 8 Eastern and at 9 Pacific. We are in the next range of mountains which France are very proud to own half of, the Pyrenees. The other half, of course, are in Spain, which means there'll be lots of Spanish supporters. Armstrong's been there before. He has happy memories of the Pyrenees, so let's hope that will continue for him. You can see all of the pedal action tomorrow starting at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time with us here on OLN. So this is the main field, and as you can see, they're not hanging around anymore, so they could well be chasing this breakaway down. We're just having a little look here. They've got 99 kilometres to go. The latest time check is 6:37 at one stage, Paul. They were over 9 minutes. So, and I agree, they're getting quite a bit of work now from the Lamprey team. which I find quite interesting, because Lotto, after all, don't have really so much firepower because they've got two leaders at this point.
Well, it's a problem when you've got a team like that with two leaders, because it takes a lot of firepower out of the team. Cadell Evans is obviously not going to come to the front and work, because Cadell Evans is riding a very good race here. Cadell starts the day in 14th place overall, just 5 minutes 55 behind. Now, a lot of people think he will perform well when we come up to the Pyrenees, so obviously he's not going to work. Robbie McEwen isn't going to work either, because McEwen has to save everything for the sprint towards the end. And, of course, the American on the squad, the former US champion, Freddie Rodriguez, he can't go to the front and work either, because he has to keep his forces to lead out Robbie McEwen to the end, if they can catch that leading group of 5.
So the tactics always being played out in the Tour de France. Some people think there's just a big bunch of cyclists pedaling around the countryside, and it couldn't be further from the truth. Every one of these guys is thinking for himself. George Hincapie on the right is probably thinking for Lance Armstrong as he rides alongside him here. These are the De Vitamin Lotto team of Robbie McEwen and Cadell Evans. Cadell, because he's shooting for a high finish, doesn't come to the front. He rests as much as he can in the peloton. But the team is making good progress on very good roads here at the moment for a chase. This is Johan van Summeren who's on the front at the moment. And there are the vineyards rather, of the area down this part of France. Lance Armstrong, with every pedal rev, is getting closer to the Pyrenees today, and they might catch the leaders on the way. Oh boy, does that look good today on the south of France. The kids are in the water. They'll be out looking at the riders when they come by, though. Not too far away from the expanse of the Camargue here, which is one of the protected World Heritage sites here in the far south of France. And the peloton is heading towards the finish. This is our Trek aerial view today of the Pont de Garde, brought to you by Trek Lucky 7 Sweepstakes. What a marvellous construction. It's withstood time and all the weather thrown at it. Today the rider's not very far away from the Pont de Garde as the race continues at a pace now. Looks a bit barren down this end of the south of France, and it can catch some very nasty weather in the winter, but today it's one of the hottest places to be. The peloton, containing of course Lance Armstrong, the gap has come down from over 9 to 6 minutes and 5 seconds right now. Two teams chasing, Lampre Caffrey and also the Vitamin Lotto. They're trying to catch up with Juan Antonio Fletcher, Chris Horn of the USA, Thomas Vogler, Carlos de Cruz and Ludovic Turpin. They got away at 17 kilometres in a flurry of attacks until 5 settled down up in the front, and at Mozan it was Vogler who took the green jersey points there. And on the climb, the Col de Vallette, which was the only climb of the day, Chris Horner was first over the top of that. Riders now looking at around about 93 kilometres to go. So we are expecting now, because the chase has started early, the sprinters will have their say today. If they do, what about Robbie McEwen? Here's Frankie Andreu talking at the start with him.
Robbie, another big day for the sprinters. With Tom Boonen out and a couple other good sprinters out in the break all day, your team's confidence must be pretty high for today.
Now, the thing is, at this stage of the tour, after 2 weeks of racing, especially at the average speeds we've had so far and, you know, the intensity of the race, I don't expect for 1 second we're going to get a bunch sprint today. I mean, you've seen the first week, it was my team and Bonen's team controlling everything. Now Bonen's gone home. My team's tired, obviously. None of the other teams are going to cooperate with us for a sprint, especially you look at the green jersey competition. It's not in Husov and O'Grady's interests to go to the line with me in a bunch sprint. They're likely to lose quite a lot of points. So, you know, those guys also want to see a breakaway get out in front. So I think that'll be the scenario today.
So will you be whipping David Tumanlato to the front to be able to try to make it a group sprint, to be able to help you out for another stage win?
No, I mean, we've only got 4 guys to ride on the front, and, 4 guys against a breakaway of, let's say, for argument's sake, 10 or 12 guys. It's just not going to happen.
How much of a drag is it today not having a bus?
It's been what you call a pain in the arse not having a bus. I mean, I had to ask Liberty Seguros if I could get changed in their bus because ours broke down this morning. So hopefully it'll be up and running again for the next few days, because it gets a bit busy when you just got to get ready at the back of the car. It's like the guys are saying, it's like the old days, but with 10 times more people.
All right, thanks.
I know exactly what he means, because in the old days cyclists used to knock on people's front doors and ask could they use the living room to get changed for the race outside. There was never such thing as a race headquarters in Belgium, which is where Robbie now lives. This is the feed zone for the peloton. and they're 5 minutes and 54 seconds behind. Well, I'm not sure how much Robbie was tongue-in-cheek or whether he was saying the opposite of what he hopes will happen. Sitting at the back here, though, is the white jersey of Alejandro Valverde, spending a lot of time at the back just now. Valverde just moving on, Paul. I'm just wondering, is he feeling a bit
Race
rough?
Radio has just announced the abandon of Alejandro Valverde.
What?
He's still riding along here. I think he's probably actually looking for the team car. We knew that he had this tendonitis with his knee. He's lying in 5th place overall. This will be a bitter blow. I think that indication from the hand is he's looking for the team car.
Well, you know, every day we are surprised in the Tour de France, and this is the last person we would have thought would be looking for the end of the road at the feeding station. Almost by tradition, if a rider's rough, that's where he gets off when he reaches the feeding stop, because he knows the cars are there to take him away. And it looks as though we saw him in trouble in the mountains on the last day. And that is a big shout. The crowd don't think he's packed in. They're cheering him on. I wonder if they realise who he is.
I think they probably do realise who this man is, because he's been made fairly famous over the last couple of days by the fact that he's the leader of the white jersey competition for the best young rider, a rider who is under 26th at the start of the season, or the start of the year from the 1st of January. If you're under 26 years of age, you can compete in this classification. And obviously for Valverde, that knee problem is much too much, and I think basically he's looking for the team car, and unfortunately for him, his team car is right at the very end of the feeding section.
Well, he's obviously decided enough is enough. It's his first Tour de France, a great shame. I remember when Alex Zula came in as a future star of the Tour de France, everybody saying this man will win the Tour one day. They pulled him out, even when he was leading the race in his very first Tour. But this man, he's going out because of a tendonitis, and it's not good for the future, this.
It's very sad, but actually it's probably the most sensible decision. This man, if he was to ride on and continue with that knee problem, could find himself doing more serious damage. And let's not forget where the World Championships is this year. The World Championships is just outside of Madrid. Now, if this man can get his knee put back into good state and ride, for example, the Tour of Spain, he could be a great favourite to be the next Spanish world champion.
Well, as the race comes into Uzes, which is where the feeding station is, talking to people with knee problems, we know that Tom Bonen abandoned the green jersey. Speaking with Belgian television this morning, who spoke with Tom, he's been to a special doctor in Belgium. They've said that there's actually nothing wrong that won't happen to be put right in the next 3 days. So they've told him to stay off his bike for 3 days, and Bonen will be allowed to start training again. And he said he will start in the Tour of Spain as preparation for the World Championships in Madrid. But it does seem he's okay.
Well, that is sad, but you know, Phil, when you're riding an event, this is the abandon, that's the stop. What a shame.
Well, it's very sad when you see a man who's part of the action all the time decide to call it quits. And he has gone. Alejandro Valverde, 5th place overall. Everybody move up one. And that's a big challenger for Lance Armstrong. Remember, he beat Lance Armstrong to the top of Courchevel. And the effort he made to do that may have caused his problem. Certainly aggravated it.
Well, I think the problem initially started when in the team time trial he actually banged his knee on the handlebars. It was a mundane incident, but it seemed to get worse as he went through the mountains, and it flared up on the big mountain stages. Yes, I'm sure the Courchevel actually really did affect it quite a bit, but it's a sad day for this man, because I could see him actually finishing the Tour de France on the podium.
I think we all did at one stage. He was likely to ride there at least as the white jersey winner, but now the white jersey, by my quick calculation, will pass back to Jaroslav Popovic, who's now in 14th place, which means it goes back to Discovery. But there's a little tear, I think, trickled out there, and that's a big loss, of course, for the team. Yes, it's awfully hard to swallow. No athlete, whether you're last or first, wants to leave the Tour de France.
Well, it's this race. It's a very special event. There are other events that you might ride around the world. You think, oh, I don't want to go on, and you just pull out. But the Tour de France, there is something special about it. It's monumental. Nobody wants to pull out of the Tour de France. At all costs, you want to get to the finish. Just looking at Valverde there, a tear in his eye, as you said, Phil, it reminds me of Jens Voigt. Jens Voigt rode through the big mountain stage with a fever at the start of the day, but he didn't want to abandon. He just wanted to be eliminated from the race, and I can understand, because I've been in a similar situation myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody leaves by the back door unless they have to. So, the race, of course, goes on. Nobody worries. That's just another less name to worry about as far as the riders are concerned. We now have 161 men left in the Tour de France as we race towards the Pyrenees tomorrow. Gone is a big challenger there to Lance Armstrong. Valverde out of the Tour, and by tonight I'm quite sure back home in Spain. Very, very sad indeed. We go on, so do you. Stay with us. We'll see you in a moment. We're back with the Tour de France that chases on, with Lamprey giving the De Vitamin Lotto boys a hand today. Haunting in the background there, the green and white of Thor Hushov's team. Crédit Agricole not helping, of course, in case Robbie's team get to the front and Robbie delivers the blow that might give him the yellow, the pink. Oh dear, let's start again. Might give him the green jersey. The current lead by those 5 men has come down now to 5 minutes and 31 seconds. 86 kilometres to go, and we are absolutely flying today. The winds are not helpful, they're across, and yet the race is tearing through them. Once more, a very fast stage. Well, the loss just moments ago of Alejandro Valverde now means that Lance Armstrong has another leader on his team now, because Jaroslav Popovic, in his first tour, is the leader in the white jersey competition. And you know, that's the third time for a third different competition that a crash causing the abandonment of a leader has meant another guy has pulled on the jersey. Okay, well, let's look down the beautiful tops of the roofs here, and we'll now look at our Honda highlight of the day. And it was a great highlight too, especially if you are French. There was 13 riders in the lead, and by the finish there was just one. It was a Frenchman, David Moncoutier. Has a habit of winning the odd stage of the Tour de France when it matters. This one mattered a lot. Bastille Day, a great victory for him and a big boost for the French riders in the Tour de France. And that is our Honda highlight of the day. Boys are just doing their job here, tapping through, as we say, trying to maintain what is a very fast speed again today. This race still runs on maximum record course, 43.665 kilometres an hour. It's coming down because of the hills, but we are still running very high up there on the record speeds. Chris Horner, of course, the United States rider in his first Tour de France, and he's the boy in the yellow strip here. Many people do write and ask, why is a team allowed to ride in a yellow strip when there's a yellow jersey? But of course, they're two interconnected situations, I'm afraid. Chris Horner gets the national colours there, which are yellow for his team. He's 33 years of age, Chris now. He's coming towards the end of his career, but he gets his first crack at the Tour de France. He only weighs 143 pounds, that's 10 stone 3 pounds in English, and he's been a pro since 1995. I think that stage when we saw him get Paul in the Tour of Switzerland this year, it was a great boost for us because we've seen him race for so long, but for him, that was the icing on the cake.
Well, it certainly was. I mean, he had a very nasty start to the season. He broke his leg in Tirreno Adriatico, and everyone thought, well, that was the season over. He was then told by the team, if you want to ride the Tour de France this year, you have to win the US Pro Championships. Well, he failed on this occasion, and then he was given one last chance. If you can win a stage in the Tour of Switzerland, we'll put you in the team for the Tour, and he did it.
But what amazes me is that the team put so much pressure on him to do that, and yet he's now turning out, along with Peeply, the two best riders in the team.
Yeah, it's great to see him have that chance, and I think he's really enjoying the Tour de France here. He had a hard time over the first couple of days because it was a very fast start to the Tour de France. We were only just inside of 47 kilometres an hour after day 5 of the Tour de France, but he still rides high in the standings, 29th at the start of the day, and this would have been a nice day for him to possibly move up.
Well, let's hope he can. It's not over yet. As we look down here now, as there's the field just coursing into our camera shot. This is the main peloton, remember. And remember, we've had one change in a jersey today. And I think we can show you our latest ThinkPad standings in all of the jersey competition. Let's have a look at that. So this is the situation as it is now with the abandon of Alessandro Valverde. Armstrong in yellow on time. Thor Hushovd in green on points. The only Norwegian ever to wear that jersey. Jaroslav Popovic gets it back after losing it to Valverde. He's now the new leader. Will pull it on tonight. Michael Rasmussen of Denmark is still the man who looks as though he's got measles. He's the King of the Mountains leader, and he looks pretty solid in that competition as well. That's the ThinkPad current jersey leaders. As we look out across the vineyards here of southern France now, the peloton are now at 5 minutes, and they are coming. Just look at the speed of that bunch racing here right across the department, heading towards Montpellier. We've been there before on 26 occasions. I'm surprised it's only 26. because in the years the Tour de France has been going, it's been a pretty favourite stop-off. Usually a bridge, it depends which way we're going around France. Pyrenees sometimes are first. This year it's the Alps which are first. So one way or the other, we call this the transition stage between the two big giant mountain chains. And they're not wasting any time, but they're certainly wasting energy today, as they're trying now to catch those 5 riders out in front. There's the winner of yesterday near the pack. All right, well, after the heat of today's stage 13, we can cool off on an adventure ride around Chesapeake Bay. OLN's Ultimate Playground hangs out with former US Navy SEALs during a weekend training. Ouch. Wanna play? Ultimate Playground, powered by BRP, is up next, straight after our live coverage of the Tour de France. The big field shrinking by the minute. Out goes Valverde. We're down to 161 riders left in the Tour from the 189 that raced onto the island of Namutier. Seems an awful long time ago. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow since this race began. Lance Armstrong in his traditional situation now as the maillot jaune, the yellow jersey, racing to Paris. This is his final race, remember. Enjoy these pictures. They will never be repeated. Lance Armstrong will retire, win or lose, on July the 24th. And right now he intends to win. The peloton is at 5 minutes. They're holding it now just a minute. 82 kilometres to go, 51 miles or so. And everybody, they seem quite interested in the finish today in Montpellier. It's a good finish for a sprinter too. They'll be there soon. We'll take a break. Welcome back. This is the finishing line. See, it is a sprinter's delight. These are the people who are waiting in glorious hot sunny weather here. Temperatures now mid-80s. And ice cream prices are going up by the 5 minutes. This is the main field here, and Lotto, only 4 riders left now to work on Lotto to try and close this gap, but so far it's very effective. The gap is now 4 minutes and 34 seconds to the Chris Horner 5-man breakaway, and it is a very interesting breakaway too. But I thought it was going to go when it got 9 minutes. It went up to 9 minutes very quickly. In just on 30 kilometres it went up to 9 minutes, but the chase started. And Robbie McEwen has told us he doesn't think it'll be a bunch sprint, but I thought he was saying that tongue-in-cheek. He was hoping it would be, I'm sure of that, and his 4 riders are doing their best here. But they've got some strange help from the Lampre team, which could mean that Salvatore Camesse fancies his chances now against the quality of sprinters left in this year's Tour de France. Inside 50 miles to go, the way these boys are racing, that's about an hour and a half or less of racing today. Still on a record speed. In fact, they'll push the record up higher with this average speed today, because we'll lose a bit over the next 2 days or 3 days in the Pyrenees. Reaching the sprint point here now. This is at Moussac, 96 kilometres covered. We're waiting to see where the 5 leaders are. They're not really interested in the sprint, so they're not fighting it out at the moment. Here we have Lotto on the front, and no sign of anybody from Crédit Agricole. That's the green and white colours of Tor Hushoft, nor the red, white and blue colours of Cofidis, of Stuart O'Grady's squad, of course. They're not going to get any points here at the special sprint, Paul. 5 riders up front, taking away all the green points. And 4:19 they're now saying.
Well, this plays very much into the hands of Team Cofidis and, of course, Crédit Agricole, because I think Robin McEwen has got the edge when it comes down to the bunch sprints on Tor Hushoft and Stewie O'Grady, and that's why they're not helping at all in this situation. They're putting all of the weight of the chase onto the shoulders of Lotto de Vitamont. And it's interesting to see that they are getting this help here coming from Lampre. This is Goraz Stangelai on the front. And I wonder if in the back of their minds they do believe that Salvatore Camesse can do something at the end of the stage.
Well, I can't think of any other reason they're doing this, to be absolutely honest. I think this is Daniel Rigi coming through now. I just can't see any reason for doing this. They're 3 men down anyway, as we now get back up to the front 5. Still scrabbling for the sprint here. Just off the front there is Chris Horner in the yellow. He is doing a great ride today. So let's remind ourselves then where all of the Americans are in the overall situation, courtesy of Bank of America. These are the American standings. Armstrong, Leipheimer's 7th rather, Floyd Landis 11th, Julich 17th. Well, look at all these Americans riding high in the overall, and Chris himself is 28th. If he were to succeed today, he could break in with a bit of luck in the top 20. That's his ambition. I'm not sure it's going to work out today. Freddie Rodriguez, he'll be working hard, looking to lead out Robbie McEwen today for the sprint win, if it comes a bunch sprint. He's the pilot fish, if you like. of Robbie as we come up to the finishing line. Fast Freddy. Musak, this is the last sprint of the day. We only had two. Thomas Voigtler in this group was first through with Carlos Tecuz and Turpin. 1, 2, 3 at the first one. I don't think they're going to sprint, Paul. They've got no reason to. Voigtler won the last one. He's come off to the left here, taking his turn in line. There's a massive crowd. Even at these sprint competition places, the crowd just enjoy the passage of the Tour de France. And they're not even sprinting. Yes, they are. Just one little sprint there.
Fletcher.
He never gives up, that man, does he?
He's a good man. He always looks for the move. In fact, it wasn't far away from here that he got his stage victory in the Tour de France. It was in the outskirts of Toulouse. I remember that victory salute of his when he pulled the archer back and let go of the arrow as he crossed the line. That was a brilliant win.
Well, Fletcher's just popped out, pinched the €800 first prize. He gets a 6-second time bonus as well. He's not going to take much interest in that because Fletcher is 59 minutes and 33 seconds behind Lance Armstrong. So 6 seconds bonus. He's in 59 minutes and 27 seconds behind.
And that, if you actually calculate that into distance on the road, he is 40 kilometres behind Lance Armstrong in the race, or 25 miles, if you were to put them if you were to line up all the stages.
Now, how far then is Thomas Voigtler? He's 1 3/4 hours behind.
That's about 65 kilometres.
It doesn't bear thinking about. It's incredible just how good Armstrong really is. And I was talking to a few of the riders, and a lot of them were just happy he was deciding to retire from the sport because they really were just taking a good hiding of him every time they raced against him in the Tour de France.
Well, the thing is that, Phil, he's actually taken the sport to a different level. He's taken the sport to a point where you have to be a specialist at the sport. You have to be a specialist at a certain kind of discipline. And Armstrong has, instead of specialising in the one-day races as he used to in the first part of his career, now is a specialist at the Grand Tour.
Well, as we continue to watch Chris Horner here in the yellow strip, riding high, breakaway is coming down at the moment. Last one we've got on our computer is 4 minutes and 20 seconds at the moment. But if you're watching our pre-show programme, we showed you part 1 of our Phonak tale, but we're now going to show you part 2, as Kirsten Dunn promised you a little earlier. Let's go.
We continue our look behind the scenes with Team Phonak. Now, they just arrived at the finish line and should be making their way back to the bus any moment. After several hours on the bike, they need to rest and do some quick recovery. The two most important things: eat real food and drink lots and lots of liquid.
Good day, men and ladies and gentlemen. Now hungry and little tired. One word about your objective on this Tour de France.
It's been an hour and a half since the riders got off their bikes, and we are finally at their hotel. They will find their rooms and then get some well-deserved attention.
Everybody gets a massage right away after we arrive at the hotel. As soon as possible, because it's very important to have the massage before dinner.
As a chef, usually you can make something different every night, more or less. Just either some kind of rice or pasta. Usually after a race like that, you don't really care. You're just so hungry, you eat whatever.
Come on.
Despite the long day, most riders won't be able to lay their minds to rest before 11 p.m. Then their bodies can finally shut down.
Boy, that looked good, especially the massage from Freddie there. Could do some aching muscles massage myself here as we're looking now at the race. The peloton is now down to almost 4 minutes, so they've pulled back 5 minutes of their deficit, and it's all being done by the same group of 6 riders here, desperately trying to chase this down. And I'm just wondering what will happen when they come together, because they will have to control then what will surely be a series of attacks still to rip off the front of this bunch. Still going to be a tough day to keep this race together because so many sprinters are now out of the competition. A lot of teams don't want this race to be a bunch group sprint anymore. As always on the Tour de France these days, America takes pole position at the finish. They're ready as the riders come towards Montpellier today. We'll take another break. Back with the Tour de France. Boy, the lads from Lotto are having a big day today, and it is an effective day. They are slowly but surely getting up to the 5 leaders of Fletcher, Horner, Voigtler, Da Cruz and Terpin. Inside 4 minutes now. 3:53. The tempo being patted out. 2 riders assisting in the chase, although I must confess I haven't seen them go to the front and make it just lately. And that is the 2 riders on the Lamprey team. Now, the second hour of the course, covered in 45 kilometres an hour. That's about 27.5 miles an hour. And the average speed for the day is in excess of 30 miles an hour. Incredibly fast Tour de France, this. Up front, this is the face of Thomas Vogler. Readily recognised anywhere he walks in France now after his 10 days in the yellow jersey last year. He's become a much different bike rider, very aggressive. This is how Richard Virenque started his career as well. When we all said, who was he? Well, by the end of his career, which was at the beginning of this year, he'd won the King of the Mountains title a record 7 times in the Tour de France. Finished second as well and third overall. So the peloton now 3:45 back to the group. They must know that they are being hunted down. This is Bob's choice, Juan Antonio Fletcher. I thought it was a very sensible pick today, that. But unfortunately, I think it's gone too soon. And he might well get roped in before the finish. And we feel sad for Chris Horner because I thought he might have read the right move today. Lance Armstrong wouldn't be interested to chase anybody down in that group. They do not worry Lance's team at all at the moment. As the field continue now just to try and get themselves back together. Here's one you should check out for yourself, by the way. Active.com. It's your one-stop shop to find training articles, message boards, thousands of endurance sports such as cycling, triathlons and running. All you've got to do is visit active.com right now and register online for events. You can also sign up for the Daily Tour, which is a free Tour de France newsletter. It includes updates, commentary and a chance to win great cycling prizes. That's an exclusive partnership between active.com and olntv.com. And now Stanglish is setting the pace here for Lamprey, so I'm wrong, they're on the front. Just look at the holes forming down there in the peloton as well here. But, you know, when you see it from the helicopter, Paul, you see just how fast this field is going. We're looking here now at 48, 50 kilometres an hour. We're only 71 kilometres from Montpellier.
We really are. Now look at the heart rates in the main field as well, because we're getting heart rates coming through to us at around about 154 beats a minute. But I think what's more interesting is the speed of the race which is being communicated to us in the peloton at 53 kilometres an hour. I know they've got a fraction of a tailwind, but still, Phil, 32 miles an hour is a bit painful.
It would be, especially with you and I sitting at the back. Anyway, the peloton here carry on. Chris Horner has now slipped to the back of the group. He sits 29th overall in the race, 15 minutes behind. That is a tremendous first-time position to be in a Tour de France, having lost only 15 minutes. When I can tell you there are, let me just have a look at the result sheet now, because everybody who is further back than 75th has lost more than 1 hour in time.
Yeah, the last man in the overall classification, Iker Flores, a rider from Euskaltel-Euskadi, is 2 hours and 18 minutes behind Armstrong in the overall classification.
Which in fairness, he shouldn't be, because he's a climber.
He's a great climber, and most of that time was lost in the mountains. They really do seem to have fallen apart, Euskaltel-Euskadi, in the Tour this year, and their big man, Iban Mayo, well, I'm wondering if he's going to survive over the next couple of years.
The ideas, of course, they came to the Tour, Paul, having won both the big preparation races, the Tour Switzerland and the Dauphiné Libéré.
It all looked great for Euskaltel-Euskadi with 15 days to go, but as Armstrong himself said to us at the Dauphiné Libéré, it's fine being good now, but you have to be good in 3 weeks' time.
Yep. That's the big thing. You come in a little below par and you build. Lance Armstrong times it to perfection. I wonder if he'd give away all his secrets when he's got no competitors next month.
Yeah, I think he will give all his secrets away, probably to Jaroslav Popovic and Tommy Danielson.
Oh dear. There's Tom Danielson, the young lad from Durango, just finished 5th while this race has been on in the Tour of Austria, and he's going to be a good rider for the future as well for the Discovery Channel. We're sure of that. So, this is the breakaway, tapping out. And as they race in glorious sunny conditions, a good time for us to check out the next 3 days of action on our Presto 3-day forecast. 2 days of action, really. We all go to sleep on the rest day, but there we are tomorrow and the next day. What a weekend. Don't leave your armchairs or move the television into the garden, because these are the big mountains of the Pyrenees. It's going to be hot. It's going to be a great time for Lance Armstrong, we presume. And then after we've had a good weekend, we can all have a rest on Monday, although we will be giving you a regular programme here on OLN. 85 degrees on Monday. Oh, time to put the bikini on. So after 2 hours today, look at this, 29.8 miles an hour, 48.1 kilometers an hour. This is Goraš Stangli in close-up. The Slovakian setting the pace, and I bet Lotto are pretty happy. They've found 2 riders from Lampre willing to help. It's having its effect, but they're only being held now at 3:45. So more firepower might yet be required here. There's Lance dodging in and out. I'm not sure whether he's smiling or grimacing there, but he's keeping the team around him at the moment, which is keeping him out of trouble. No simple touch of wheels. He wants to fall off, as apparently happened to Manuel Beltran yesterday. We'll take another break. Rejoin us.
Hey, Levi, can we get a couple minutes?
I gotta get out there.
Okay, get in the car, There he is. He just went around that corner.
Can we talk to you? A couple questions?
Would now be a good time, Levi?
Sorry, guys. Now's not a good time.
Hey, Levi, maybe just 2 minutes. Levi?
Levi?
Oh, I'm injured. Levi!
Welcome back to the oven we know as the south of France, and this is the finishing line in Montpellier. They have a little mock cycle race here every day from local children who pull on these jerseys. It's just finished. Happy smiles. He must have won, I think, as they've come into the line, but everybody down here waiting for the race. They get these same pictures on a huge screen, so they're not just watching us. They're enjoying the pictures of this breakaway of 5 that's been out since 17 kilometres today, and it's 3:44. So just now, they're at that nasty psychological mark where the bunch is not getting closer. About 41 miles left to race, which is an hour and 20 minutes maybe today, the speed these boys are going. And people out on the course there as we use the side roads here. Most of the main traffic anyway is carried on the autoroute, which runs right across the base of the south of France and carries a lot of the people here down to their holidays in Barcelona, which isn't too far away, as it swings away from Montpellier and goes south. In fact, it's not too far away from Lance Armstrong's home in Girona, and he could nip home for the night if he chose to. 3:44 is the gap at the moment. Let's remind ourselves where we are around this lovely country known as France. This is our map brought to us by Mitchum. Starting on the Moutier, we've coursed right across the north, down there to the east. We're right down there, traversing now the Spanish borders here from Miramas to Montpellier. It's a race of 173 kilometres. All the way it's flat. We're almost running into the sea here. France is to sink. This is the first part. The ocean will come up. Just a little tiny climb at the beginning. Chris Horner won that. And it's 108 miles. Pancake flat. Flat rather, but as you're American, we'll call it flatjacks. And the field here still being led by De Vitamin Lotto. Seems to be a bit of a stalemate at the minute, Paul. We've got into this locked-on situation of 3:44, shades of yesterday when they were chasing.
Shades of yesterday. These guys have had to chase for an awful long time. They have reduced the gap from just over 9 minutes to just over 3 minutes, and it's got to that point, I think, in the race where it's hovering. Those guys are going to have to get some morale boost from Robbie McEwen. I'm sure McEwen will be asking them just to keep it going, because he really wants to pull this back together here this afternoon. You know, because looking at the stages to come, Phil, it's very difficult for the sprinters to have another possibility of a victory. Tomorrow we've got a big mountaintop finish up to Aix-les-Trois-Domaines. Then we've got the stage up to Pla d'Adet. I don't think a sprinter's going to win into Pau, because we've got to go over the massive climb of the Col de Marie Blanc. Then after the Col de Marie Blanc, and we've moved away from Pau, we start to move right up through the middle of the country. Even on the road to Revel, it's a fairly difficult day. Although the profile is not that hard, it really does undulate towards the end, and at that stage there's a third category climb down towards the end. So
that might spoil it.
I'm thinking that basically looking over the next few days, Mende, for example, is a mountaintop finish up to the aerodrome, where in fact a few years ago in 1995 Laurent Jalabert won himself the stage. So these guys, Phil, are probably looking after today's stage to the Champs-Élysées.
And I guess Stuart O'Grady and Thor Hushoff have worked that out as well, so they really don't want the punch sprint for Robbie McEwen to take 35 points at the line. It could be giving him a gift, but we'll see, because at the moment they're still trying to bring it in as the finish gets closer. Little slight drag here just now. A lot of work being done now by Carlos de Cruz.
Funny you mention that 35 points, because actually Robbie McEwen is currently 35 points exactly behind Thor Hushoff. It's going to be a big battle, that competition.
Right, so as we see here, the group of 5. And the sun, there's the latest time check. 3:30. 3 minutes 30. So it started to move again a little better now. So as we look at the breakaway here, we did see a lot and talk a lot about the challenges to come from people on the T-Mobile. Hasn't been the case quite yet, has it? Let's take a look about their situation. Team update on T-Mobile. Well, after the 12th stage we've had Jan Ulrich lowly in 9th. Andries Kloden, 2nd last year, is now in 10th. Vinokurov, brilliant of course, Chevelle is in 12th. Brilliant the next day rather, is in 12th. Giuseppe Guarini, the big leader man, seems to be struggling this year a bit in 25th. This is not a great situation for the team at the moment, but with the couple of days in the Pyrenees to come, we expect T-Mobile to have a better team update next time we show you. 5 men out in front just as we speak. 3:22. They've started to eat into the lead a little bit more again. So as they continue working very regularly, there's this chance, it's getting slimmer, but there is still a chance they might stay away. Go, Chris. Welcome back, they're still clear, but the gap is getting closer. Fletcher, Horner, Voigtlich, Da Cruz and Turpin. The men have been away since the 17th kilometre. Had a lead of over 9 minutes. It's now coming down to approaching the 3-minute mark. Just 9 seconds over the top of that. And they've turned into a little headwind just for the moment, a left turn, and it's made all of the difference, I think. The gap has started to close down just a little bit. And the roads in this part of the world, they don't really hide. They're long and straight and very exposed. So when we get down to about 2 minutes, the chances are they're going to see these riders up front. There's another magnificent split on that traffic circle, and a coming together of the peloton on the other side. Well, let's have a talk now about Mike and the bike. This is a boy whose name is Mike. This is Mike's pride and joy, his bike. Grab your helmet and come along for cycling adventure with Mike and the bike. Written by Michael Ward, or foreword by Lance Armstrong. It's available at mikeandthebike.com, amazon.com, and all of your favourite bookstores. Armstrong there, licking his lips in anticipation. Well, I don't think it'll be today. It's just a matter of getting home today using as little energy as possible, because tomorrow everybody's going to use any reserves they've got. We're into the Pyrenees. Smile today, tomorrow it's all Grimace Lance. He's saying a lot of wind.
He seems, I've never seen him ride the Tour de France in such a relaxed atmosphere. He's not actually talking at the moment. Or is he? No, he's tight-lipped now. I think he said all he had to say. He just wanted to mention something about the wind. But to finish that thought, Phil, the man, I think, is in the best form of his career.
Yep.
But he's the most relaxed that I think we've ever seen him in the Tour de France.
I couldn't agree more. He's always taken this race extremely seriously, but this year he's talking to people, which is a bonus in itself, and he's now enjoying his final lap of France. And it looks like at the moment it's going to be a successful lap of France, even if it isn't the win. He's certainly going to be up there on the podium in the first 3. I don't want to jinx him at this stage of the race. But as we look down the gorges here now, that'll be a little bit easier for the wind down at the moment as it flows across the trees here. But that peloton is in a very angry mood, and it is being dragged along here, which says a lot for the breakaway, who are equally moving in excess of 48 kilometres an hour right now, just to try and hold them off. The lead has gone inside 3 minutes for the first time now for a couple of hours. 2 minutes 55 seconds.
Strange tour. You know, I really did believe when we saw that group of 5 get clear after 17 kilometres, I thought, that's it, it's all over. We're going to spend the day talking about just 5 riders who will finish with a massive advantage of 10 or 15 minutes. I didn't really believe that Lotto Davitamon, the team of Robbie McEwen, had the firepower today to go out and once again and chase. There's no help this afternoon from Quick-Step, because their top sprinter, Tom Boonen, pulled out of the race yesterday morning, and now there's only one team really that's got the responsibility of doing all this pacemaking.
Well, had they won by 10 minutes, it would have lifted Chris Horner into the top 15 in the race overall, and that, I think, is what he's aiming at. I'm a little bit surprised Chris has moved today because he's not a bad climber. In fact, he's quite a good climber, and I thought he might have wanted to rest like Lance and see what he could make in the Pyrenees.
But it's one of those situations you have to take advantage of an opportunity if it presents itself on the road, and I think the reason Chris Horner has managed to get into this breakaway is because he saw something developing, it happened right in front of him, and he just jumped onto the train.
Yes, indeed. 2:49 the gap right now, so it's beginning to fall again quite rapidly as they get on this road. The wind up front is causing a slowing of the escape, I think. Hats off to these four riders from De Vita and Lotto. 57 kilometres to go. 2:45. So, there we go. And we've still got the two Lamprey boys helping as well. So they've got faith in Salvatore Camesso today. Twice the Italian champion. 2:43, the yellow jersey of Lance Armstrong in there. Sun shining beautifully today. Wow, there we go. He'll never keep up with that flag. As you can't beat the size of that. Let's join Lance Armstrong and Frankie Andrea about sunglasses today.
Hey Lance, this is Frankie. Just wanted to say good luck for the rest of the tour. That's right, I'm talking to him with these glasses on, the Motorola Razr Wires. Oakley partnered with Motorola to put Bluetooth capability to any Bluetooth phone on their eyeglasses. The earpiece to listen in, simple on-off switch, the volume, and obviously the microphone to be able to talk to all your buddies. So, when the riders are out riding for 5 or 6 hours, they can keep in communication with everybody. But you know what the problem is? You have to try to get their phone numbers to call them.
What will we do next? Soon we won't need to ride the bike to win the Tour de France, the way technology is going. Thanks, Frankie, as we now see the peloton at 2:43, and that long, thin line at the back means a few riders now beginning to get hurt by the pace. But, of course, one man who never gets hurt by the pace, that's Lance Armstrong. Is it windy up there, Lance? Yes, it is, he says, as he races towards the end of today's stage in Montpellier. See you in a moment. Welcome back to the Tour de France today, and the chase is on. It's been on for a while now. They've had taken a long time, but they've pulled back over 7 minutes of the advantage now of the leaders up front. And Chris Horner amongst 4 or 5 other riders, hoping they won't pull it all back here. Massive crowds on the road to Montpellier. And Chris Horner enjoying his first Tour de France. I have to say, he's riding it like a veteran here. He's the rider in the yellow strip of Sonia Duval. This is Thomas Voigtler. Looking across at the group, he's also willing to work. Driving on through now is Ludovic Terpin. And the rider in front of Voigtler is Juan Antonio Fletcher. I'm still not sure they're going to make it, Paul. Time is ticking off very quickly because we are racing at such high speeds. Have the boys got the strength to chase them down in that group? I wonder, because nobody's going to help these De Vita and Lotto riders apart from these 2 riders from Lamprey.
Well, the terrain suits them a lot more than it did yesterday. You know, yesterday when we went into Digne-les-Bains and went out on that loop of 47 kilometres, they went over a second category climb, and that very much went against guys like Johan van Sommeren and, of course, the other guys who are working with him, like Mario Ertz and Christoph Brandt. The difficult thing is today, the good thing today is that the road is a lot flatter on the run into the finish.
Well, the heat is affecting the heart race today, because looking at the heart rate of Sebastian Eno at the moment, and it's telling us it's 195 max today. And he's beating currently at 152, so he's right up there amongst the top 75%. And that's probably because of the high speed and the heat.
Well, I think what's impressive and interesting is that even on the slopes of this climb, we were clocking in at around about 48 kilometres an hour. We've been averaging in the peloton around about 50 kilometres an hour for the last few miles, and that really is a fairly remarkable performance by these guys who yesterday basically turned themselves inside out for Robbie McEwen and failed. But he's managed to boost their morale and get them back into the event to try and pull it back together for him today.
Well, just looking at these rides on the front, it's Johan van Sommeren and Wim van Sevenant who are doing a lot of the work, and Mario Ertz of Belgium, and a lot of the and at the back of them is Fede Rodriguez. Cadel Evans and Axel Merckx and of course Robbie McEwen are sitting it out. But considering there's only a little bit of firepower up there, it's now just 2.25 minutes as we come through Kizak at 54 to go.
That's why I think they're doing such a brilliant job. It's very difficult for a team when you've got two leaders, because it reduces the number of riders who can actually do work in the race. And this team has basically, once you eliminate Merckx, once you eliminate McEwen and Freddie Rodriguez and Cadel Evans, they're down to just 4 riders who can do the pacemaking. But it's nice to see, actually, Cadel Evans is riding in about 6th or 7th place there. That's really to show support for the troops.
And just right up in the slipstream. There's Lance Armstrong. He always haunts the people at the front of the race, keeps an eye on them, stalks them wherever they go. It's not his job to lift the pace today. It's up to them to beat him. When you're in the maillot jaune of the Tour de France, you always know, obvious where you are. It's a question of who can attack you. And today is not a good day to attack the race leader of the Tour. You've got to wait for the mountains, where you can hopefully crack the spirit of the leader, or the individual time trials where you're on your own. Best man wins.
The interesting thing is that on a day like this, which is known as a transition stage, we're transitioning from the Alps across to the Pyrenees. Armstrong's team get a chance to take a little bit of a back seat, because it's the teams of the sprinters, and mainly the team of Robbie McEwen, Lotto de Vietemont, who are doing all of the work. So you can see Team Discovery Channel getting a back seat ride here this afternoon. They know, though, that tomorrow, once we head down to the Pyrenees, they've got to take over the reins of the race once again.
Another roundabout, everybody going the same way today. Unusual, that. I must have sent them that way. And it's coming down now to approaching 2 minutes. So very shortly on this flat road here. Oh dear me, the road's getting a bit bumpy in the distance there. Simon heading for the Pyrenees for sure. These are the leaders still. 2 minutes and 6 seconds now. They're closing to the 2 minute mark. Once we're inside 2 minutes, that helicopter, a bit of a giveaway to the peloton off the far right of our picture. All of the leaders, I don't think there's anybody behind the main field today. We've heard no news, anybody being left behind. So it's the whole field charging down towards them. 51 kilometres to go. And there's no passengers in this group. They're all trying.
Everybody's working. Everybody's taking their turns, making the pace at the front of the group. Thomas Voeckler at the back there in the pale blue shorts of Bouygues Telecom is looking very nervous. He keeps going to the front. He doesn't want to miss his turn. I think Chris Horner looks fabulous on a bike. I think he's changed his position a lot over the last couple of seasons. He's a man who will try and turn around tomorrow and ride well in the mountains, because he's currently in the top 30 in the overall classification. And he was looking today to try and steal back some time to move himself up into the top 15.
Well, in this breakaway, setting the pace right now, Carlos de Cruz. François de Gers have not had a great tour, and they've got some good names on that team. But he's trying to put matters right. Rode his first Tour de France in 1999, 4th time around, finished every one. That's a lot to be said for that in itself. He's only had a high finish, though, of last year, which is 85th place. Now, the change of direction slightly of the wind, judging by the diagonal pattern of the formation now. That's a lovely picture. The wind now has changed direction again here, slightly off to our right now, coming in. That means the crosswinds could tear this peloton apart if they really get to grips with it. 50 kilometres to go. Let's take a break. Welcome back. Well, this relentless pursuit is paying off, but not very quickly. As we approach the last 45 kilometres of the day, the race to Montpellier, they now sit on just on 2 minutes at the moment for the 5 leaders, which are still the same 5 men. Fletcher, Horner, Voeckler, de Cruz and Turpin. But the 2 minute margin is now upon us. It's been a hard chase to get more than 7 minutes back of the time gap, but they've done it now. The boys from de Vietemont Lotto, ably assisted by only 2 riders from another team. This is Thomas Voeckler here in the breakaway, sitting on the back wheel of Juan Antonio Fletcher. This is Chris Horner. He had the most to gain if this was a success, but it doesn't look like it's going to be now. A 2 minute gain for him is not going to be a great gain anyway when you're 15 minutes behind overall. Okay, well, this is a hot day today, so after the heat of today's stage 13, cool off on an adventure ride around Chesapeake Bay. OLN's Ultimate Playground hangs out with former US Navy SEALs joining a weekend of training, and I bet that's tough. Ultimate Playground, powered by VRP, will be up next straight after our coverage today of the Tour de France. sooner or later it's all going to happen, Paul, and I don't think it's going to be much longer now, because once you're inside that 2 minutes, I think the action will be all for the sprinters. They'll all sense the catch. There'll be a lot of people today with a lot of sprinters now watching this on television at the various homes who will also feel they have a chance.
They certainly will, and the team managers will be looking at this very carefully to see how their men are positioning themselves at the front end of the main field. These are not great roads now, Phil, for the breakaway, because the men at the front will be inspired, and it's a little bit unfortunate for them that we're covering the race live on television, because the teams who are working on the front right now, what they'll do is they'll look further forward and they will actually see the helicopter hovering over the breakaway, so they'll be able to get a physical judgment of how far they are away from that leading group of 5.
Yeah, it's a shame in some ways, because when you've been an aggressor since the 17th kilometre today, and now you are approaching 40 from the end, you really want every assistance, and you don't want the helicopters to give the game away. But these boys are coming. It's been a long, hard chase, this, but they have been flat out to try and get there, and it can't be more than another 10 kilometres before they'll join that front group. And then who's going to make the next attack, because there will be time to try and slip the peloton and spoil the sprinters' day.
There will be time to do that, and that may well be what Stewie O'Grady might look for, because he has to do something very special if he wants to win the points classification. O'Grady currently sandwiched between two great sprinters, Thor Hushovd, who leads that classification, and Robbie McEwen. McEwen really needs to win the stage today if he wants to have a crack at winning the green jersey for a third time, because he's currently 35 points behind Thor Hushovd.
If this came down to a finish, by the way, Carlos de Cruz is a pretty fast finisher on the front there in the white strip, and he will probably win the stage. Now, I think he probably knows that, and he's going to give this best shot to try and keep this together. Horner needs to stay there for a different reason. So, as we see the field now coming through here, there's the 4 riders from De Vita Malotta. There's 5 there at the moment. Cadel Evans has joined in, which is a little bit of a surprise, because Cadel needs to keep something special for tomorrow. Christophe Moreau still haunts the classification in 3rd place overall, enjoying his best ever tour, this man, and looking as though he might well challenge in the Pyrenees. Alexander Vinokourov in that light turquoise jersey just gone through. In that little glut there is Ivan Basso. There's the yellow jersey of Lance Armstrong. These are the men whose names we expect to start calling again in earnest tomorrow as we race into the stunning dizzy heights of the Pyrenees. The biggest chunks of granite rock which lie there, separating as a natural resource Spain from France, and the big playground of the Tour de France since 1910. These are the riders now, the long legs on the left of Johan van Summeren, who has simply been a fantastic teammate for McEwen this year. The Lotto team has had a great day out. Well, there they are. We could have gone back to the 1950s tour looking at that car. This is Lance Armstrong. And now, seeing Lance Armstrong there, it's time now for our BMW moment as we follow the top 25 of Lance Armstrong throughout his years. We're now looking at number 9 here, when Lance was the winner on Plat Day. We go there Sunday, by the way. Lance and Jan Ullrich. Ullrich disappears, and Lance, of course, waits for him. A great sporting gesture. Ullrich, it took a while to climb back, but climb back he did. Once they're all back together again, Lance says, "How are you? Okay?" Ullrich says, "Yes." He says, "Right, well, I'm off." Lance Armstrong breaks away. And so it was, Lance Armstrong winning, and that was Lance's great moment at Plat Day. I wonder if it'll be repeated. That's our BMW moment, and you can have a vote for the top 5 at olntv.com. So go there and cast your vote. So this is the all-time days in yellow now, and this is very interesting because Armstrong is closing in day by day on Bernardino. He could be leaving his last Tour de France a comfortable second behind the great Eddie Merckx, who's also a very good friend of Lance's. Anybody who finishes second to Eddie gets the vote in my book. These are the riders on the highway now. This is Thor Hushovd here. We thought he was a bit too far down the peloton earlier. Surely he's sensing now that at 1:56 this breakaway is not going to go, and if he is, then he should really start thinking of moving up the peloton. Hushovd, Paul, is still sitting at the back, which I think is a little bit unwise, because they're going to catch this breakaway for sure now. about another 5 or 10 kilometres. Hushoff, remember, second time he's worn the green jersey, the only Norwegian ever to wear the green jersey, 27 years of age, the perfect age now to start riding at the top of your career. Basic strength is sprinting, but you know he's also pretty good at staying on the flatter roads too.
And he's a big boy, you know. He measures in at 6 foot and weighs 178 pounds. And that's mostly the big brawn which has produced some incredible sprints. He's won himself 2 stages in the Tour in the past. He won in Bourg-en-Bresse back in 2002. And he won that dramatic sprint in Quimper last year where he just caught Fabian Cancellara right down towards the end.
But what with the current fine riding of Hushoff and Michael Rasmussen and the Swedish rider here, Magnus Bagstedt, the Scandinavian people have found themselves a new summer preoccupation. They are flooding into France to watch these riders in the Tour de France. It is quite amazing how it has boosted the interest in the sport in Scandinavia.
Yeah, I know. I should have bought that camping car stock a couple of years ago.
Yes, I think you're right, because camping cars, you can't hire one for love nor money at this time of the year in France. Get your booking in a year ahead if you want one over here, because that's how they travel the course. Well, this is the Lotto team car, and it looks like Axel Merckx is it.
A little bit of a problem with his rear derailleur. And in fact, you see, that's the big problem. That what happened there was he'd actually got a little bit of aluminium foil stuck in the rear derailleur, and that's what happens when the rider's food.
I think he's gone back.
He's not worried. The rider's food that they get at the feeding stations is wrapped up in aluminium foil to keep it fresh and to keep it separated from all the other things that they've got in there. And when a rider takes the paper off, well, they don't carry the paper with them to the finish, they discard it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets flicked up by a wheel, and if you get it in your rear mechanism, it can be rather precarious. And don't try and do this yourself at home. Take it out with your own fingers.
It's like when a piece of string goes in a boat propeller, it can stop the ship. Peloton at 1 minute 44 right now. And these are the people at the finish getting a little bit excited now. Oh boy, there's a lot of American flags down there today. They're going to be a big cheer for one Lance Armstrong when he gets in then. That's for sure. It won't be long now. We'll take another break. Welcome back, and as you rejoin us, the latest gap just hitting our ears is just on 1.5 minutes now for the leaders. And Popovic there, I think it was Paolo Sabadelli, was just taking a little puff and a smile. There's Lance Armstrong. They look pretty relaxed today, Discovery. They know that the next 3 days of the Tour de France, they're going to be hard at work at looking after Armstrong. Rasmussen on the far side there, Floyd Landis. They're all looking to make their moves in the next 2 days. We have one terrific weekend of the Tour de France for you. We're in the heart of the Pyrenees. All the big climbs are around us. The next big stage for Armstrong to defend his maillot jaune. Today, it's routine, for him at least. He'll come home, he'll pull on a new yellow jersey at the finish of today's stage. But tomorrow, boy, it's going to be special. Now, Armstrong has been since '99 an inspiration to us all, winning the Tour de France 6 times. He hopes it'll be 7. OLN is saying thank you to Lance Armstrong for these wonderful years. And you can also say whatever you wish and give him a big thank you as well. Do this by visiting olntv.com. The man who's looking to win his 7th Tour de France. And there's the rider who would have won it at least 3 times if Lance hadn't been around. Jan Ullrich, still stalking him in the peloton here. A quick pan down the peloton. There is Alexander Vinokourov. Did a wonderful ride in the Alps, rather. He'll look to do something special in the Pyrenees. Bet on it. Armstrong is working hard now. They seem to have lifted the pace that little bit more because they are sensing the kill.
That's what they want. They've done all of the work and they want the rewards as well. They don't want the same thing to happen as happened yesterday when they did a lot of the work and at the end of the day they lost 10 minutes.
They didn't sense the kill yesterday. They were killed, I think, as they called off the chase towards the end. It was all a lost cause, but today it's going to change. De Vitamin Lotto have had a very hard day chasing down a 9-minute gap to currently 1:23, 1:21 as I speak. It is dropping. And the T-Mobile team, the boys in pink, not a lot to show for this year's Tour de France yet, are taking closer order here.
Well, they're trying to keep a very close eye on affairs. Maybe Jan Ullrich is thinking that he might try to have a go at the sprint. Because, you know, in his previous years when he was an amateur cyclist, Jan Ullrich was a very good sprinter. He was world amateur champion in 1993. On that occasion, in the big race, the professional race, a young man from Texas crossed the line in first place, a man by the name of Lance Armstrong. And the guys behind him were phenomenal names. He beat Miguel Indurain, Olaf Ludwig and Johan Museo.
Never heard of them.
Oh, they're youngsters.
Well, don't forget the big news today. Alejandro Valverde, the white jersey of the Tour de France, best rookie, lying 5th overall, has abandoned at the feeding station. If you're just joining us, the field is now down to 161 riders as we head for our 27th finish, or 27th visit anyway, to Montpellier. And these 5 have been out front since the 17th kilometre today. Juan Antonio Fletcher, Chris Horner, Thomas Voigtler, Carlos de Cruz, Ludovic Tepin. They've been out as far as 9 minutes in front. There's a nice little wave from Chris Horner. But at least he's still relaxed. He's amazing, this guy. He's in his first Tour de France. You think he'd ridden the last 10.
He's really enjoying that. You see the flick of the arm? That's a professional's indication that he wants the rider behind him to come up and set the pacemaking. But that's not good news to see that time gap down to 1 1/4 minutes for these 5 leaders. They will surely get caught, I would say, in the next 15 kilometres or so. That's the peloton, and you could get an idea just looking from this angle at exactly how fast they're cruising along. They're tipping the scales and the speedometer up to around 50 kilometres an hour.
Well, looking at Sebastian Eno's heart rate, and he's a guy that sits midway in the peloton. It's a max of 195 today, and it's casually beating at a mere 140. But he is in the peloton, and these are the boys with the pressure. I'd like to know their heartbeat. It's Ertz on the front again here.
Mario Ertz, they're just in 4th position. You just caught a glimpse of Van Sommer there. Just chewing away there was Cadel Evans. Obviously not thinking about today's carbohydrate intake, but probably thinking about keeping those levels topped up for tomorrow, because tomorrow on the road to Aix-les-Trois-Domaines is going to be a very difficult stage.
Well, we're running into the last 37. Hold on to that horse now. Yes, I think that's a success as the peloton come by. The flash of colour often disturbs the horses. Did well to control it. The lead is coming down 1 1/4 now. Oh, the catch isn't far. 36 kilometres to go.
Well, there you see Johan Van Someren in about 3rd position. He's done an immense amount of work since the Tour de France started, and he's only been a professional since 2003. He doesn't have a win to his career. He was actually born in the town of Lommel, which is in the Limburg in Belgium.
Current lead 140. And still these boys can claim all of the credit for it. Floyd Landis' boys are coming up on the left now. These are the current leaders. 38 seconds in 2nd place, but King of the Mountains, Rasmussen, Torhushoff in the green points lead. He's looking at a big result. Lance Armstrong doesn't care in yellow today, just wants to finish.
What more can he possibly do?
He's recovered from advanced cancer to capture his first yellow jersey.
This is a tale of determination and suffering.
That's jersey number 2.
He took a look straight into the eyes and blew the competition away.
The Armstrong Express is just wiping them all out.
Somehow Lance has avoided disaster to become a 5-time winner.
He shattered the record, the only man with 6.
The cyclism returns to OLN. 8:30 a.m. live, 8 p.m. expanded coverage.
Welcome back. This is Le Pic de Saint-Loup, yet another beautiful backdrop for the Tour de France today as we make our way from Miramas to Montpellier, 173.5 kilometres. We're not far off getting there now as we run towards the 25-kilometre banner. The latest time check, just coming straight at me as I speak, is exactly 1 minute. It's going to be touch and go, but I don't think they can survive. It's a great shame, especially for Chris Horner. This would have been a wonderful escape for that man. But I don't know. The Lotto riders here are particularly good today. There's the gap, exactly 1 minute as they continue now. Just slowing down because they're probably about to make a corner here. That's the only reason. Dodge the bollards in the middle. There's the corner. Pity the boys on the left. That's an awful long way round that roundabout to get back into the peloton. Little extra effort required as they run up on the inside. But the field at the front not losing control of the head. 4 riders from De Vitam and Lotto, 33 kilometres to go as they continue towards the day's next destiny, which of course will be tomorrow when we enter the Pyrenees. So don't forget, our exclusive coverage of this race continues tomorrow. Stage 14, up in the mist of the Pyrenees. Live tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, that's 5:30 on the West Coast, with expanded primetime coverage of 8 Eastern and 9 Pacific. A couple of great days of racing to come now. and we know you will enjoy those. Will Michael Rasmussen try to get back the 38 seconds he is behind Lance Armstrong? Will Vinokurov jump away, disappear, steal the show? I wouldn't put it past him. And what about Santiago Botero, a former king of the mountains of the Tour de France? He's shown us he can climb. We are in for a terrific few days in the Tour de France. Mind you, they're all terrific days in this wonderful race, aren't they? But don't forget the time, 8:30 Eastern tomorrow morning. 54 seconds as we look at the pictures now. Thomas Vogler slipping to the back as a particularly, he climbs his bike a bit like a spider, so we can always pick him out. Young Thomas, he's a great character, and he really has risen into very much the top block as a French cycling superstar. It's even down to 53 now. The gap is almost finished. There go the cars. That's a horrible sign.
Vogler just looked over his shoulder there. I think he realises now that it's almost over. Probably thinking back to last year when he got into a very successful breakaway which gave him the overall yellow jersey, a yellow jersey he was able to keep for 10 days, and he was hoping today that he might be given a certain amount of freedom. I was just trying to read the blackboard there, but we are hearing from Race Radio that it is very quickly coming down. The last time check was 52 seconds, so shortly, I think if they look round now, Phil, they will actually see the peloton.
They'll just keep going. It's time to take on just a little bit more food before the catch, and then hang on to the tail of the peloton as they scorch into Montpellier. It is still 32 kilometres, just under 20 miles still to go to the finish. So there's still chance a little break could sneak away here before we get down to the finish. And watch out now for the proximity of the green jersey Thor Hushovd, who's been riding very, very near last man in the race. Not a wise position right now. He needs to move up. And watch out for Stuart O'Grady. Very clever rider. Every stage is a big stage for Stuart, and he's only a few points off that lead.
Well, they're in the same straight now. That's bad news for the leading group of 5. They now know that their day in the lead is almost over. There's Johan van Sommeren there, Christophe Brandt, and just a quick glimpse there. You can see a lot of the team stars are fairly close to the front end of the main field. This is a fairly dangerous moment in the race because they're actually starting to back off a fraction. They know they've got the leading group in hand, and they know now that almost certainly there will be one or two little counterattacks starting to go.
The thing is that even when the Lotto team do chase down the breakaway, they'll still have to try and control the head of the field, which means they've got to keep going as fast as they can to stop the people attacking off the front. Not going to be an easy ride for them right to the line, is it?
That's the tough thing. They've done an awful lot of effort over the last 2 days to try and pull the race back together. They've basically almost succeeded in pulling back this leading group of 5, but yes, they will get attacked on the run in towards the finish, and I wonder if they've got enough energy to defend.
Well, that's an interesting thought. At 48 seconds now, they're now on the long straight. They're in sight of the breakaway. In the distance there, you can see the lights of the 2 lead policemen who form the envelope of the peloton. As they've still left the neutral service car, a referee just behind as we pan down. And here come the pack. Slowly but surely, they have closed a gap of some 4.5 miles on the field, and they're now right behind them. We'll take a quick break. Join us soon. Welcome back. The 5 boys are still there, but don't look over the shoulder because the field are snapping at their heels right now. They've actually stopped the gain on them. They're around about 50 seconds, and in fact, I think the reason now that they're not closing in is that the race behind knows they've got them, and the De Vietem and Lotto boys don't want to close it down just yet. The minute the catch is made, other riders will attack. So they're holding them there, they are putting them out to dry, as the riders say now, and then they'll come in as we get closer. It's 28 kilometres to go to the finishing line, and I think they will wait until I don't think they'll be able to control the peloton once we see that 25 kilometres to go bracket. This is Mario Oert snapping out the pedal just now at the front. Eric Decker is the orange jerseyed rider off to the right. Lance Armstrong's team are always there keeping hold of Lance. Just on 17 miles to go, 27.5 kilometres, and the gap stabilising at 55 seconds. Now the green and white riders on the left are the teammates of Thor Hushoft. They used to be the teammates of Thor Hushoft. And the Cofidis, which is the white jerseys, on the far left is Matty White, the lead-out man for O'Grady. They'll be looking after him.
It's going to be a big battle here, Phil, for this sprint, because this is probably, apart from the sprint on the Champs-Élysées in more than a week's time, this is probably going to be the most important sprint for these three guys, Hushoft, O'Grady and McEwen, because depending on which way it goes, it's going to give one of them a very good chance of taking the green jersey up to Paris. If Thor Hushoft wins, I think Robbie McEwen's chances are very much reduced of winning that race.
It's a good point, actually. So a lot of sprints for the interim bonuses from now on. 54 seconds. They've managed to knock off just a second. Let's go back 2 years ago. Here's an interesting result for you, because we've got one Antonio Fletcher in the breakaway. Bob's choice today, don't forget. This is on the road to Toulouse in 2003. And he got away from the group, and this is when we first got to know this man from Spain. He's riding in the iBenesto.com colours, and wow. His name Fletcher, well, Fletcher is a man that makes arrows for bows and arrows, and that's what he meant by that, as he shot the arrow and won the day in Toulouse, 2003. Well, here we are, 2005, just a slender chance he might do it again. Average speed today is up, there's no doubt about that. After 3 hours, we're still hanging on here to 46.5 kilometres an hour. Current race speed is 43.6, so we're going up again today. The split of the peloton, 51 seconds. They're getting closer, but they are inching now rather than running at them through this nice gorge here as we get onto the outskirts of Montpellier. Still a way to go, just over 26 kilometres. To the finish, so just over a kilometre to the banner. That will incite a riot in the peloton, perhaps. Armstrong off to the left in yellow, the polka dot leader of Rasmussen at 38 seconds, which is an incredible location to Armstrong after all of this racing from a man in only his second Tour de France.
Well, you know, this has been a great day, I think, Phil, for Team Discovery Channel. They've had almost a day off because the other teams have come forward and done the majority of the pacemaking, and that's probably going to be important for them with the loss of Manuel Beltran yesterday because of that crash. For the first time since 2001, Team Discovery Channel losing a man before we get up to Paris.
Now then, it's very unusual for Team Discovery. They've only done it back in 2003. They like to bring all their men home for the celebrations and ride the Champs-Élysées together. But not the case this year. Beltran, I'm sure, will be brought in because he played such a valuable part in the team. 45 seconds, 25 kilometres to go. Now the charge is on. So, as the riders continue on their way, they're now coming up to the 24 kilometres to go. I don't think they'll survive you, but you never know. And that's the show that changed television and the castaways that made it happen. Rudy, Richard, Jenna and Kelly in the first alliances, the first tribal councils, the first unforgettable season. Grab your torches and head back to camp. For the first time in 5 years, Survivor lives on OLN, and that will premiere July the 24th at 7. Same day the Tour de France will end on the Champs-Élysées. The flags of the Tour de France, the peloton of the Tour de France, the men from De Vietem and Lotto, and up front, and not by very far now, 41 seconds, the 5 heroes of the day. They got clear at 17 kilometres, and they are now about 100, they've been in the lead rather, for around about 130 of those kilometres. And you see the special yellow signs there indicating to the riders. The Tour organisation put those up, which is the roundabout they're approaching and which way they exit. This race does everything for the security of the riders and tries to keep them as informed as possible. So this is a well-organised event and a well-oiled machine, and these boys are highlighting that from De Vietem and Lotto today. It's been a long chase for them, but they are on fire now. At 23 kilometres to go, 36 seconds is the time check. It can't be long now, but they're going to hang it out just a couple of kilometres longer, I think. There they go, through the same gap. These are the riders out front. Bring the motorbikes past. There's the boys from OLN, hard at work. There's no rest for them or the riders in the Tour de France. That's how we bring you the pictures of this event. See you in a moment. Desperate moments in the Tour de France as the peloton try to close in because somebody's just flown off the front of the break. It looks like Carlos de Cruz is trying now to make a desperate bid for freedom here, but somebody has also dived off from the front of the field. Looks like Servais to Canavan to me, and that would be a typical move from Servais if it is from the Quick Step team, because he's a Dutchman who has won before, and these are the moments when things could change as the Dutchman tries to get clear. Well, I think we might have expected a move like this, Paul. Servais Canavan, former champion of Holland. He's got no reason now to work hard at the front because his team sprinter's gone, so he's free to win for himself.
He's a good man, you know. He's a former winner of Paris-Roubaix, a former winner of a stage into Bordeaux in the Tour de France, and a very clever tactician. He might be hitting them just at the right time.
Well, you know, when you've been like the boys on De Vita Malotto have been racing at the front flat out, this is the reason they didn't want to bring this breakaway back too soon, because they knew someone would make a bid for victory for themselves. You can't chase everybody, and that's what Servais Canavan is thinking right now. He's trying to reach the leaders, whereas Carlos de Cruz has tried a tentative move from that breakaway as well, and he's got a nice little lead over the peloton here.
Well, what the team of Robbie McEwen have got to do in a situation like this is not panic. They've basically got to ignore a move like that and just keep steadily using the tempo they've had for the last 60 kilometres or so, because naturally, if Servais Canavan hasn't got the power, he will start to weaken and they'll just pull him back without accelerating.
Well, the 5 riders from 17 kilometres out today. Juan Antonio Fletcher was the first to attack with Carlos da Cruz. The rest joined him. They were gone. And it looked to be as though they were racing into the sunset, but nothing could be further from the truth as we now head under 20 kilometres to go to the line. The leaders are under. Da Cruz has been caught after his tentative attack, but the main field here are also going to be under there. Right at the top of our picture, Servais Canavan is trying to catch those leaders first and shake out the strong members of the breakaway and try and run for home.
Big pack this afternoon. There's the green jersey halfway down on the shoulders of Thor Hushovd. If he can win this today, he's going to really seriously lay down the foundations for an overall win in the green jersey points classification, because he's already got 35 points ahead of Robbie McEwen. On the other hand, if Robbie McEwen gets himself the win, it's going to be a lot closer.
So this is Servais Canavan now, just trying to get across. Big effort now required, huge effort. He's a man who can do it. He tries to get along. We're counting down, so is OLN counting down. It's the 25 best outdoor movies of all time. These will begin premiering on July the 20th. The stormy start of Castaway, the epic journey of Dances with Wolves, the grisly conclusion of The Edge, and more, which will make it to number 1. Countdown, 25 best outdoor movies, all new, 20th, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on OLN. The field now continues. Hunt a new name out there, Servais Canavan, a former stage winner of Bordeaux. Well, I don't know why it is, Paul, but it's true to say that Dutch cyclists are the best tacticians in the business. They read races so well. He sensed something and he's decided to give it a go.
Very clever bike riders. This man is probably one of the cleverest. And in fact, it was a tactical victory for him when he won Paris-Roubaix in 2001. He was actually trying to set the win up for Johan Museeuw on that occasion, but there were too many riders watching Johan Museeuw, and this man slipped off, got himself the lead, and they never saw him again. And that was very much similar to the way that he won his stage of the Tour de France into Bordeaux. It was a long, lone victory.
Well, this is 9th Tour de France, and that stage mentioned his only stage victory in 9 attempts. And he's not a winner. He doesn't look for a high finish in the overall classification. His best place has been outside 100th overall.
I think he realises he's not going anywhere.
He's not going to make it this time either, because I think he's decided they're not letting him off the hook.
Well, you see, that was great tactics by Lotto. They didn't panic. They just left him out there, because you've got to be a very special bike rider to ride away alone on a run into the finish of a Tour de France stage, because the main field, although it doesn't look like it, is probably riding along at an average speed of in excess of 55 kilometres an hour. To succeed off the front as a single rider, you've got to ride at 60 kilometres an hour, and there's not many men I know can do that.
And one of the Lotto riders, I think it was Axel Merckx, was saying something there to Servais Canavan. I don't know what it was, but he probably said, welcome back. This here is Brilliant chase by Lotto, remembering that this team is only really 4 workhorses left, and Axel Merckx and Cadell Evans are getting in there amongst it now, and it's all dear me. That's always a bit of a nasty thing to happen. They wouldn't have been hurt had they hit that clapping machine that makes these funny noises, because they're only made of pieces of plastic and hot air, but a little bit disconcerting when you switch like that in the peloton. 17 kilometres to go now. The peloton are still at 39 seconds. Boy, they're making a meal of this. And Juan Antonio Fletcher, he might try for going alone right now. So too Chris Horner. I can't tell you when they'll come back, but make sure you do in a minute. Welcome back. It's all action now. They are in fact at just about 15 seconds behind. We've gone over a small hill which isn't shown on the contour. One rider tried to bridge on his own. He's back in the field, and it is now just a quarter of a minute's time gap. There'll be nobody in the gap behind the riders now except our television camera, and they've got over the top there. We're looking for the 15 kilometres banner, and that's still the best part of 10 miles to race to the finish, so they're not going to survive. It's a question, though, how quickly the chasers want to bring this group back now. They've been thundering down, and there's a lot of teams now starting to take part, and particularly Lance Armstrong's Discovery Channel. There is the 15 kilometres to go banner. 16 seconds is a nothing gap right now. These riders are not easing up. They've been away, remember, from the 17th kilometre. So 140 kilometres in the lead for these 5 riders. I don't think they're going to stay away. Well, this is a most interesting sight now as we home in on the Discovery team. Suddenly Armstrong has ordered his squad to chase. Paul Sherwen is now going to tell me why.
Absolutely and utterly no idea. I think really just to keep Armstrong up to the front of the main field and to keep him out of danger, because what's happened, you see, Team Lotto de Witteman have used all of their energy, Phil, to pull back this breakaway.
Yep.
And what they won't have very much firepower left to control the front end of the main field. What Armstrong doesn't want to happen is a dangerous move. This is Sylvain Chavanel jumping off the front of the group.
And he's Cofidis.
He's a Cofidis rider. He's trying to get himself victory here. He was hoping that he'd get into the breakaway yesterday. A very clever move here, but when you can see that the front end of the main field is controlled by Team Discovery Channel, he's going to have a hard time at pulling it all back together. He's still got to ride across the gap to get to the 5 leaders.
Right, well, it does swing around a little bit. We do have a lovely wide boulevard eventually with a very, very nasty sweeping left-hand bend at 450 metres to go to the line. Now, I don't know the situation, Paul, but I'm hazarding a guess. There's no love lost, as far as you know, between Robin McEwen and Lance Armstrong, and I'm wondering if he's trying to set something up here that Cofidis might profit from.
Well, I'm not sure whether that's a situation. I'm pretty much certain the real reason Armstrong wants to set the pace at the front is to make the main peloton safe. If you go to the front in a situation like this and you keep the pressure on at the front end of the race, then you string the peloton out into a long line, and you don't get riders who have had a fairly easy ride on today's stage coming up to the front and taking risks, and you'll discourage riders, for example, like Samy Dumoulin, to come up to the front and take crazy risks, possibly provoking a crash.
That would certainly make Lance unhappy, I agree. But having said that, what a chance now of a double for Cofidis and France, because this is a good ride. Sylvain Chavanel was an outside hope for a top 5 or 6 finish as far as the French were concerned, but has lost over an hour, so he's well lost his chance now. He was never on the great form. He's running very close of our rear end there on the motorbike. We managed to get away, but that was dangerous. Chavanel is making a serious run at the finish here.
Well, it was slightly dangerous, but I'll tell you one thing, as an ex-bike rider, the bike rider there, Phil, will have actually used that motorbike on purpose. He would have come in very quickly into that corner and tried to actually get a slight pull from the motorbike. The responsibility in the race is for the television cameras to get out of the way of the rider. It's not the rider's fault.
And Paul Sherwen said that with feeling, I'm sure. Anyway, this is the situation now, reaching that. What a great crossing of the gap by one man. Sylvain Chavanel, Carlos de Cruz saying, what's going on? There's one guy here, no peloton. We'll chase him down, and Carlos de Cruz has started with a big kick.
He's kicked there to get onto the wheel there of Sylvain Chavanel, and they might hope that this could be the little bit of firepower that will help them to survive, get down to the finish line. The gap, though, between this 6-man leading group is actually going up. It was down to 5 seconds, but all of a sudden, with the arrival of Chavanel, it's gone up to 16.
Well, there's still a chance. They've really got to get on with it, though, because the field won't be long catching up, but they've got some strength now. There's the peloton. Oh dear, they're all looking at it. Somebody's going to jump from this group, I think.
Well, the problem is they know how strong Sylvain Chavanel is. They were able to nullify his move there. But this is Juan Antonio Fletcher's going to go. No, he's not. I could just see him teeing himself up over on the left-hand side. Chris Horner coming to the front. The main field is all over the road behind him. I still think we're going to have a sprinter's day.
Well, Chris Horner waving his right arm there, like the washing line, and nobody coming past him, because that's the signal to give me a hand here. But really, well, they're making a hard work of it. We saw how well Chavanel crossed that gap, so it's possible. Here comes a move now. Thomas Vogler digs in. Da Cruz, he was the winner of this stage if it had been a sprint, and he's really upset he can't get to the line yet. But he's going to go. He's marked everybody who's attacked from this breakaway.
Thomas Vogler was the man trying to break the stranglehold there. He was pulled back there by Juan Antonio Fletcher in the blue and white. Now here's Sylvain Chavanel going again.
Well, he's taken a few deep breaths and recovered, and now he's going to try and rip off the front, and you see he's got fresher legs. He has gone, and they're going to work at it though. Juan Antonio Fletcher is counting the move. He needs help. He hasn't got the power. Looks over his shoulder. Don't call it to Cruz. Can't go anymore. This is the move. He's going
Chavanel has now got the gap finally, but there coming round the back there is Chris Horner. Horner, in fact, has seen the move, and he wants the chance of victory here, just as he did in the Tour of Switzerland just 2 weeks before the start of the Tour de France. He said, I've been away all day. I'm not letting the victory go like this.
Well, 11 kilometres to go, and I'll tell you what, this is amazing. The peloton cannot get on terms. We are at the limit today. It's been a very, very quick stage. Now it's Domina Vacanzi launching a man out front. They lost their sprinter yesterday, Furlan.
Furlan abandoned like many riders in the Tour. We are looking at some very tired bike riders. Great move here by Chris Horner. The American on Saunier Duval has come across the gap. Don't forget, Phil, Horner has been away since the 17th kilometre, and he's found something special there to get onto the wheel of Chavanel. Now, Chavanel is the fresher rider, but Horner, that was a great move.
What a shame he has come into the Tour de France so late in his career, because this man has been sensational this week. As Horner now hooks up to Chavanel. Chavanel's at full limit here. Horner needs a few deep breaths before he can take up the pacemaker, I think. No, he's gone straight through. 29th overall, 15 minutes plus down on the race leader. No danger to Armstrong. For the stage win would go down very nice on his honours list.
It would go down very nicely, thank you very much. And it was great to see Horner came up there. He must be fairly tired, having been in the breakaway for such a long time, Phil. But this man has been very successful in the United States. In his career, he's topped 63 victories.
Yep.
And this would be his greatest.
He just never settled when he raced here on the Française des Jeux squad. He did it for a couple of seasons, didn't do anything at all, went back home, started beating everybody in the United States again. Got back this year to Saunier Duval, impressed in the Tour of Switzerland with a stage win, and got into the Tour de France team, and frankly, he's number 2 on the squad.
He certainly is, but he's looking to try and improve his overall classification. He's been given a certain amount of freedom here this afternoon, and despite being at the front of the race since the 17th kilometre, he's still finding a little bit of energy to help Sylvain Chavanel. Now, they've got themselves here. This is actually turning the race around to be a rather interesting situation.
There's a chance.
Discovery Channel have got no reason at all to pull back this group. As Sylvain Chavanel, this is a very difficult part.
And neither's Cofidis nor Crédit Agricole, because they're taking away the big green jersey points here.
Oh, this is a difficult part. You remember driving into the finish this morning. This is a slight incline up over the railway lines that really hurt Chris Horner. He had to dig deep to stay in contact there with Sylvain Chavanel.
The only trouble now is we go into a long 4-carriageway boulevard here, the Avenue de l'Europe, as we race down towards the finish. Then it gets rather narrow when we go on the off-ramp, very narrow in fact, to race underneath to the finish. And so that is where the catch will come, if it comes. But they've got a gap, and this is looking very, very good. If this succeeds, Paul, it's a move that so rarely doesn't, because they've ridden off the nose of the peloton.
Well, this is a very rare move here in the sport of professional cycling. Very rarely in the last 10 kilometres, when the hammer is completely down, do you see a breakaway survive. These are the remnants of that 5-man group, and they're still away. They're around about 10 seconds behind the group of Chavanel and Chris Horner. But Chris Horner, I think, has done an excellent job to work with Sylvain Chavanel, and they've got a very good chance here, because the main field is actually now, strangely enough, losing time.
We're just running towards 8 kilometres or 5 miles from the line here, and these two still have a chance. And I would have put it at nil just a minute or so ago.
It's going up. It's 12 seconds now from these two back to the four riders behind, and then it's 25 seconds to 5 seconds back to the main field.
So they've taken 10 seconds, and to take time out the peloton in the last 10 kilometres is very, very special. This is going to be a great run into the line now. We are looking at a counter-attack here from the peloton of Salvatore Camesso. That was why they were chasing with the De Vitamin Lotto team. I think they've sensed that the break is not going to be caught.
This is a very weird finish. This is a strange tactics. Everybody's now throwing caution to the wind. There's no organisation on the front end of the peloton. Chris Horner throwing the bottle away, getting himself rid of about 500 grams there. It may be the 500 grams that will make his bike just that fraction lighter. I can't believe he's still got the energy, but looking at the way Horner is pedalling, his pedalling action is a lot smoother than that of Sylvain Chavanel, who's using a much bigger gear. He's probably got a good acceleration if they can survive to the finish.
Well, Chris Horner has been sensational today, from the racing in the United States to taking part amongst the stars of the Tour de France is one big jump, and he has done it. This is the breaker. This is the peloton trying to put matters to right as they're now splitting up here from the front of the group. Nobody's got control of the peloton.
Well, just coming across, you see the Domina Vacanze rider has made the junction here with these riders. Salvatore Camesso is lodged just on the back. 22 seconds is the gap over the 4 chasers, which is now 6 riders, and the main field just 3 or 4 seconds further back.
Well, the peloton, they look closer than they are because of our camera shot just now. The Domina Vacanze rider has bridged the gap. I don't know if you recognise him, Paul. I haven't got him just yet. But he's trying to get on terms here. I wouldn't surprise if it's not Maxim Iglinski of Kazakhstan, because he's been very aggressive, and it could be a big day for him if he gets across.
Well, I think the main field is going to wipe out the riders in the middle there. It could be Grifko who's going to cross there. He's a very good time trial champion of Ukraine. And there, it's all over for the group in the middle. Now, hopefully for Chris Horner, there will be a slight amount of confusion here, and their gap might just hold for another couple of kilometres.
So at 6.5 kilometres from the line, 2 riders are surviving. One, Sylvain Chavanel, crossed the gap, reached them and went again. Only Chris Horner reached him. The man for the United States now is ever so close to the greatest moment of his cycling career, and we're heading for the 6 kilometre banner. Well, there isn't one, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I'm following the story here. Sylvain Chavanel, by the way, is a very strong professional bike rider. Just before the start of the Tour de France, he was crowned the national time trial champion of France. So he's a good man to be with in a breakaway situation like this. But there is no organised chase at the front end of the main field. Liquigas coming up now, maybe to think about the possibility of a win for Magnus Backstedt. There's a rider coming up from Gerolsteiner as well. That would be for their sprinter Forster. But this is not the kind of organised chase to pull back a breakaway.
Well, Gerolsteiner also thinking of Peter Rollick, who sprinted well yesterday. Here comes another move now from the Française des Jeux. They've got Baden Cook still on the team. We haven't seen too much of Baden this year, but he's won the green jersey a couple of years ago.
Well, there's no organisation at the front. I'm surprised to see Coffey doesn't have to come to the front just to try and slow down this move, because they need to, on the last couple of corners, if they can, have a couple of riders in the first 4 or 5 places just to slow down the impetus in the corners. This is a very interesting situation. It's going to be quite tough because the gap is now down to 18 seconds. They are going to have a very hard time, Phil, surviving off the front end of this group. The main field is reportedly charging into town here of Montpellier at 55 kilometres an hour.
Well, Sylvain Chavanel, it's his 5th Tour de France. As they go under 5 kilometres to go, it's around about 18 seconds. It is going to be desperate moments because they'll go out onto this wide boulevard and then down towards the finish. As I say, Chavanel riding his 5th Tour, his best ever finish, 36th in 2002, 37th the year after, 30th last year. That's why they thought he might make a big leap up the classification. Hasn't been the case, so now he needs a win.
5 kilometres to go to the finish, 16 seconds the advantage, and still the majority of the pacemaking is being left up to Lance Armstrong and his Discovery Channel team.
Surely Lance won't chase Horner down.
He won't chase him down. He's just riding at the front of the bunch, trying to keep himself out of danger. but none of the other teams. There's Maggie Backstead over on the left. He's wondering whether or not he's got that power to get the sprint here this afternoon.
Well, he has today. He's a perfect choice if it comes to the sprinters. He's one of the few sprinters left.
Superb day for Maggie, and it's a very safe sprint for the sprinters. But what they've got to do first, if they want to sprint out for glory, is catch these two guys. Horner is on the front, still doing a great job of work. In second place there, Sylvain Chavanel. And they're now looking at the banner indicating 4 kilometres to go. They have to survive for 5 minutes.
Dangerous moments, these, as we race towards the finish. The catch is so close. Lance Armstrong probably making the team ride in the front with George Hincapie to keep him at the front and away from any likely touch of wheels in the peloton, which will bring a crash about. He doesn't want to be involved in that, and that's his thought by staying at the front.
15 seconds is the advantage these two riders have over the front end of the main peloton. I don't believe that Discovery Channel are actually chasing these two riders. They're just setting a tempo. But where are the teams of the other sprinters? Why is there no organisation from Liquigas? If they want to get the win for their man there, the big Magnus Backstead over on the left-hand side, they're going to have to really nail it down. And it's not a question of waiting for a kilometre or so. They've got to do it now.
It's almost as if they're queuing up. I don't know what they're waiting for, because there is no organisation. This is why this part of the Tour de France at this stage of the race, 13 days in, is so exciting, because the teams are thinned out with abandoned riders, and it makes the thing a little less predictable. Here we go, 14 seconds the gap now, looking for the 3 kilometres to go. Ben, I haven't seen it. Was it just there?
3 kilometres to go for the two leaders.
There it is.
And they're still holding on to just 15 seconds lead. They dare not look back. Well, Sylvain Chavanel has taken a glance back there, and he's probably thinking, it might just work. It might just work. If there's a moment of delay in the front end of the main field, these guys may survive. And it could be, Phil, that it's all in the final kilometre. That's still a very nice gap, 15 seconds.
It's not getting larger, but it's not getting smaller. There's a little rise here, and Chavanel, that's how he got away, has kicked again. Horner likes rises too. He's on his wheel. That's the off-ramp they've come down there, I think. And Chris Horner is also a pretty good sprint finisher. It could be a win here for the USA, and what a tour they are having is so many riders up on the overall as well.
Everybody's moving up. I just caught a glimpse there of Matty White, and on his wheel you can be absolutely certain you will see the shadow of Stuart O'Grady. It's come down a couple of seconds, down to just 12 seconds advantage for the two leaders. But if they get to that final kilometre, Phil, with a 15-second advantage, they should just have enough to hold on. But it's going to be very, very close.
We're looking now for the 2nd kilometre from the finish, and it can't be very far away from these riders now, as we're just on 10 seconds of gap. They're swinging away now. 2 kilometres, 10 seconds. I think we've gone under it for the two leaders as they're racing now through the crowd line here, and this could be the escape of the race. And what an escape by Horner.
They could have cheated the sprinters. The sprinters are there, but they're now in the very same finishing straight. You can see the blackness at the back there. That is the peloton. The front of it, I think, now is covered in pink jerseys. That is the team of T-Mobile, the team of Jan Ullrich. I wonder if Big Jan wants to have a crack at trying to get himself a stage victory in the sprint. Well, he should do. It's 8 seconds, and they're not far away from the kilometre banner.
Just on 9 seconds, 8 seconds, and they're looking for the banner which says 1 kilometre. They are under it. This could be the escape of the race, as Chavanel read the move and reached. Horner was the only one to go with the breakaway. He will have been in the lead for 150 odd kilometres if he can get this. And what a way to finish his first Tour de France. First or second, I reckon he could win in the sprint.
I think he could win in the sprint, but they dare not play any tactical manoeuvring right now. They've got to keep the pressure on. It's just down to 5 seconds. Looking over his shoulder, Sylvain Chavanel is playing the tactical game. Horner is in a good position. He's going to wait until the last possible moment. He must be tired, Phil. He's been away for such a long day, about 160 kilometres.
They see the finish. Oh, they're off that bend. They can see the finish. Here comes Magnus Backstead being led up by leaky gas. Boy, this is a huge gamble by Chris Horner. Not helping, I'll tell you. If he waits any longer, it'll be all over. There is the left-hander now, and McEwen is on second wheel around it. They started the sprint. Horner goes the line, but they're on his back wheel. Here comes the lead out of the century from Fred Rodriguez, as now over the top of Robbie McEwen looking to win. As he hits the line, he gets gets it, and it's no good complaining Stuart O'Grady because I don't think he'd have won. But he was second anyway. What a shame for the two.
I think O'Grady was in second place, but more importantly, Freddie Rodriguez kept the sprint going to put time and distance between Tor Hushoff and Robbie McEwen. Robbie McEwen is going to move a lot closer in the overall standings of the green jersey points classification here this afternoon. Look at Fast Freddie just disappearing over on the right-hand side, but the master of the sprint here this afternoon, Phil, has got to be Robbie McEwen. What a great win. O'Grady second, I think.
What a finish. Well, McEwen has gone over the line. It wouldn't surprise me if the judges take a look at that picture, but I think if they did anything, they'd be wrong, because he was on the line there and he wanted to really just show off, and he did move his bike a little bit to his right. But what a shame for Horner. He made the mistake of just waiting that little bit too long, because these boys move once they see the finish. Freddie Rodriguez gave a lead out and a half, and there could well be, and there'll be no objection to that sprint, there could well be a little bit of a time gap as well. But McEwen gets his third stage victory of the Tour de France, and a wave of victory too from the American Fast Freddie. We'll be back, of course, in a moment. Looking down on this big, expansive city of Montpellier, the 27th time the Tour de France has been here. Boy, was that a sprinter. I thought we'd seen some pretty good sprints on this race, you know, over the first week of this Tour de France, especially with Tom Bonan. Chris Horner, naive, made a mistake. He waited too long, that's for sure. But at the end of the day, those boys travel fast.
They go very fast. I don't want to take too much away from what Chris Horner did, because, Phil, Chris Horner had led the race for about 160 kilometres. Yeah. Didn't have a lot left in those legs. He tried to win in the only way possible. But this man certainly did have the legs. Robbie McEwen, third stage victory, is now right back in the race for the points. And don't forget, USA's Freddie Rodriguez, Fast Freddie they called him, was right up there in third place. Stewie O'Grady on the left, getting second.
Yes, and he even stayed there for third, Fred, which meant that they couldn't get the points, so Hushoff finishing fifth. There'll be no objection to that finish. I know that Stewie will be very annoyed. He always is when Robbie does that, but this time you only declass people if it affects the result, and that didn't affect the result. This is our Pacific Life result of the day. McEwen all the same time. Surprised. Stuart O'Grady second, Freddie Rodriguez third, Guido Tronti, he's Italian, but he was fourth on the quick-step team. Tor Hushoff in fifth. So the three boys for the green making the top five today. Significant. Further down, Robert Foster sprinting well again. Magnus Baxter, we talked about, was eighth, and Chris Horner washed away, almost touching the finishing line. Finally got over there in 10th place. A lot of work, but at the end of the day, no big result. Alan Davis, Baden Cook, also sprinters. Luke Roberts, another Australian there in his first tour, completing the top 15. We'll keep on going here. Sylvain Chavanel got washed away to 16th place on the line. Completing the top 20 was Samuel Damoulin.
Well, so Phil, I tell you what, it was all down to the last 200 metres, and I think Chris Horner did the right thing. It was a big gamble, but he probably didn't understand just how quick the rest of the group was coming back, and Robbie McEwen there, straight down the middle, no problems at all. I don't think anybody deviated from their line, but take your head up there to Freddie Rodriguez. He's been the real lead-out man for Robbie McEwen the last couple of days.
Let's have a look at the Michelin GC. Here it is. Lance Armstrong at the end had a quiet day. Still keep everything the same as far as time goes for the big battle of the Pyrenees starting tomorrow. Santiago Guterres-Phonak is into fifth place. Because of the loss of Alexander Valverde today, everybody now moves up one. Levi Leipheimer comes up to sixth. Francisco Van Sabo is in seventh. Jan Ulrich is in eighth. Claude comes up to ninth, and Floyd Landers pops in now, 10th, 4:16. A bit further down, Vinokurov up to 11th, all climbing one place. Cadel Evans up to 13th. Popovic at 14th will be the new wearer of the white jersey today, inherited from Alessandro Valverde, and Andrei Kashikin, he is completing our top 15 there. Looking out across the Camargue here and the beautiful area of this coast of France now, which runs straight down into Spain. And these boys now, well, the king of the sprinters, Robbie McEwen, everybody says he's the fastest, but that doesn't always make the transition, you know, because you have to prove it all the time. Don't forget, after the heat of today's stage 13, we cool off on an adventure ride around Chesapeake Bay. After this finishes, OLN's Ultimate Playground hangs out with the former US Navy SEALs, joining a weekend of training. We'll send Robbie McEwen there. Wanna Play? Ultimate Playground, powered by BRP. That'll be next here on OLN. Now, as we look down on Montpellier, it's a new town and an old town, a little bit mixture of both. This is the situation in the green jersey. Now we've seen the 35 points taken by McEwen. If he hadn't been declassed on that third day, when he lost a lot of points, he would have been the leader, but Hushoff keeps the green jersey by 14 points over O'Grady, and McEwen is locking in third place there. He's still a little bit of work to do. There is the Greater Flamingo, which plays around on the Camargue here. It's an African bird, but this is a rather tropical venue, and they are very much protected in this part of the world.
Magical part of the southern part of France, the Camargue. It really is a haven for ornithologists and bird watchers. Many of the birds that you find here are very much migratory birds. But today we had a migratory finish by Robbie McEwen.
We did indeed. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have a look what's in store for the riders in the Pyrenees. Not a programme for the nervous coming up. See you in a moment. Montpellier, where Robbie McEwen has just won his 8th stage in history in the Tour de France. He now equals the 8 stages he's won in the Giro d'Italia. That's what a sprinter does for a living. He's now won 135 races in his career, and all with those magical fast twitch fibres in his legs.
Well, actually, Phil, I just looked down from the commentary position not too far away from us here, and I just saw 2 riders from Lotto de Vitamont cross the line. One of them was Johan van Sommeren, losing 11 minutes, but I think he's going to smile a fraction when he knows the result of today's stage.
Oh yes, he can help himself out to a little bit of a share of the money tonight, because he certainly earned it. Well, don't forget, we're looking ahead now to what is coming tomorrow. The weekend is upon us. It's the Pyrenees. These mountains are high and they are cruel. We will show you the boys in action all the way through the Pyrenees, beginning live tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Early rise on the West Coast at 5:30. Expanded prime time coverage at 8 Eastern and 9 Pacific. The Battle of the Pyrenees is about to commence, with Lance Armstrong leading Michael Rasmussen by a scant 38 seconds. Santiago Botero showed good legs in the Alps. Can he carry them over into the Pyrenees? The same must be said too about Alexander Vinokourov. Poor old Alejandro Valverde, he won't be seeing the Pyrenees, at least not as a cyclist. At the feeding station today, he abandoned. Tendinitis, we believe, is his problem. He leaves the race in tears, and we're really sad for him. But we're very happy too for Robbie McEwen. As he comes on, he is never happier than when he is a big sprinter in a big race, and this is his 3rd stage win of this year's Tour de France.
I think the great thing about Robbie is not only does he win these stages, but the first thing he does, Phil, is like a true champion. He thanks the troops. He thanks his teammates. He asked them to rally around today.
This one.
I don't think he can believe it. He himself this morning didn't think it was going to be possible to control the race situation. But with it only being a 5-man breakaway, he then asked the guys to go to the front and pull it all back together. That was a brilliant win.
It was indeed. It was his 16th of the season as well. As we look now at the Pacific Life stage results today, arch rival Stuart O'Grady matches him there in 2nd place. Freddie Rodriguez, the leader out of Robbie McEwen, hangs on for 3rd himself. Guido Tonti 4th, and Tor Hushoff, the other man in the action for green, he crosses the line today in 5th place. So both of his main rivals took points back on him. And further down, Magnus Paxton in 8th, and Chris Horner got washed away on the line, but still hung on to take a prize for 10th on the day. He was without doubt, for my money, the most aggressive man of the day. Alan Davis 11th, and looking down, completing the top 15. Luke Robertson, his first Tour de France. He's a world record holder of the pursuit, team pursuit that is. He's in 15th place today and settling in nicely. And completing the top 20, the man Lance Armstrong occasionally blames for all the crashes at the finish. He got home in 20th place. Talking of Lance Armstrong, Paul, here he is on the podium. Another jersey for him. And again, now, another dangerous and sleepless night, because tomorrow we're in the Pyrenees.
75 days in the yellow jersey in his career. He's not too far away from that 2nd place record of Bernard Hinault, but I think he'll be looking forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow and the weekend is going to be a very difficult 2 days of racing. We're up in the Pyrenees. We've got a mountaintop finish tomorrow at Axlis-Trois Domaines, and followed up on Sunday by a difficult summit finish at the top of the Plat d'Adet. There is the Blero, Bernard Hinault, having a quick word with Lance Armstrong.
As we go to the Michelin GC, there it is. This is the situation now before we climb the granite hills just down the road. Lance Armstrong leads by that 38 seconds from Michael Rasmussen. Lance will not let Michael out of his sight now. Christophe Moreau is surprising but still there for France in third and has been climbing very well. Ivan Basso has got to make his move over the weekend. Levi Leipheimer, because we've lost Valverde, moves up into 6th place. Francisco Mancebo into 7th. Ulrich is now 8th. Cloden is 9th. Landis comes into the top 10 today at 4:16. Let's have a look what's in store with our map here from Mitcham. Paul.
Right down on the Pyrenees and right on the Spanish border. We will move away tomorrow, as you can see, from Agde, which is right on the coast. But I think what's more important is take a quick look at this. It starts off reasonably flat as we scurry across the bottom part of France, avoiding Perpignan, avoiding the road down to Barcelona. But we go initially over the Col de Paillere at 2,000 metres, an outside category climb, for the mountain-top finish at Aix-les-Trois-Domaines. And look at that. The last 30 kilometres of the race is going to be blistering.
That's the route tomorrow, and these are the hills we climb. 220 kilometres. It's a long way when you're climbing through the mountains. Live tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Expanded coverage, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Now in our expanded coverage tonight, because we're running out of time right now, we will bring you interviews with Chris Horner and, of course, with Lance Armstrong. So make sure you tune into that. And don't forget to visit us as well at olntv.com. And all of our apparel are given to us by the courtesy of LL Bean. We've enjoyed the race today. Hope you have. There's a surprise every day in the Tour de France. Today was no exception. On behalf of the team from OLN, it's goodbye for now. See you tomorrow.